The trio of young men stand before us, and they themselves reveal a simple and at the same time important truth. The real benefit is found where the energy is pulsating, the determination is alive, the heart is alive, and the heart is still alive. Ancestors and their deep feelings. Turning to his friends with the idea of discovering the locality in search of excesses, the hero calls out the Superchka. His toughness in the leader, as a result of his actions, hurts everyone. On the road, the wonderful word skillet comes to mind. What does that mean? Soon this mystery will be revealed. In short, in whose world there is a special blessing ceremony, available to everyone after reaching 14 rocks. To those who grew up without their father's guardianship, like these boys. Serious people get lost in thought about one of the most popular characters in People. It was no longer possible for many heroes to wriggle around in the face of this motorized pasture, as it became their remaining spark of hope. Before our eyes stands the kingdom of Centicillion, a power that has revealed 5 fates. A voice comes back from the crowd. This bitter ceremony has overthrown all hopes, reflecting the splendor of the majestic holy day. The boy named Credron took away his special frying pan as a gift, a display of the greatest mastery, echoing the power of the great sage. A special gift was prepared for Zeta, the power of holy and healing water, which heals and protects. And the third child, Liber, was blessed with the rare mastery of the spirit, which in the early days of life was truly irreplaceable. An incredible gift. The power that was handed over to the ill to resist the evil monsters and demons changed the way of life of one old man, falling on his lot. Rod firmly believes in his status as a famous charmer, and the girl's encouragement inspires him to great deeds. I will effortlessly encourage her to turn back to the church, pointing out her inseparable bond with the blessed saint. Having listened to the wise message, the girl breaks her promise. And this time, Liver reveals that he has already grown up. Grace, given by the fire, will always carry with it sustenance for salvation. The important old man told this truth to the children, who heard the news with great joy. At the same time, the boys turned to the 4th comrade, who reluctantly joined their company. Ruya became aware of the ever-present abundance of things that made her seem invisible to other children. The embarrassment did not deprive the child's heart. The young ones tried to offend, for which faults she received such a share without shame. For a long time they lived in splendor. Although they comfortably consoled Rui, they guessed that not only she had lost without a revealed gift. At the ceremony, 4 more people shared their share. In these circumstances, everyone was aware that such a situation rarely comes to an end. This has never happened before. Just 3 people have acquired the skills of the highest level. Prote Rufio cannot forget why he himself received such power, and the reconciliation. Everything is not the intention of the Almighty. Father's joy languished in my head. Don't let the enemy take the mountain. Look for support in everyday life. This is how others will live. Having taken these words to the heart, having embraced them. And then they kicked him back with unknown accusations. Friends are trying to rejoice, concluding that her turbo is not wasted words. In the early 1900s, the most extensive mutual support helped them achieve this goal at once. Trust them and tell them how to change your changes. The children burst into laughter, eager for the boys to become famous, and that young man was destined to destroy treasures in search of them. Following the heat, the yerba moved away, still laughing, at this time, like a little one, locked in an even deeper world. Step by step, an invisible force began to take his name away. The rest of the day before the apostle moons, especially for you. There are very few people from various backgrounds. It is simply impossible to raise the power level without the necessary skills. For Rui, there is no guesswork. But before the transition of the protracted one, to get into trouble with monsters, find them and try to get to the bottom of the matter, without any proper craftsmanship. The decision is extremely unimportant and serious, declaring that being different is not evil at all, and the lad will continue to work until the end. Frozen to the forest in searches of an invisible force, or else you risk ending up in the midst of demons. It is necessary to risk the choice that will create an unusual simpleton. Deprived of his remaining will, the sky speaks. I will say that if I don't, I can't shed my daily tears. I won't waste anything. It would seem that a very thin hair would really show up enough for our guests. Otherwise it would break through the lad's jealousy and cause my pain. The blood appeared again on the skin, and the heart was filled with anxiety. Prote zupinatia, not I. It looks like Zeta and Kradrat snatched a solid win. In the middle of the main character there flows a warm joy for these friends, wanting to convey words of encouragement in a voice of marriageable humor. Survive the challenge of calmly enjoying other people's successes, so that wider emotions are deprived of silent sadness. It's deep in the middle here. The tears themselves leave his eyes, seem to disappear, transforming into a pure flow from the deep depths of the soul. Worries and anxieties swirl around the guy's knowledge, depriving him of more food. What kind of fate prepared for him for such a trial? Over the course of time, panic attacks begin to feel. They are replaced by a clear mind and a calm understanding of the past. Tormented by inaccessible power, what path will they take? The travail of living in isolation is destined to end in defeat. Thoughts circle around the necessary steps to resolve such a pitiful finale. And the realization comes. It's time to turn back to the game, face new challenges and try yourself in a completely different way. It is important to realize how many hundreds of thousands of people, without hesitation, rushed at this cry and miserably recognized their failures. Those that such a share could catch anyone on this level seemed even more incredible. The voice to walk, the place itself forms the cob rhubarb of the skin that grows here, but it does not play a key role. Nowadays, in the struggle for survival, I would like to see triumph and triumph, but I understand. I can no longer sleep on the way back. When you hold nothing in your hands, no family ties, no kindness, no friendly embraces, the most extreme passion grows. Liudina, spared everything that is dear, has been created to marvel at Bliskovich's quickness, as we know today. Defeating the first monster became a real achievement. For Rua, this seems like a real wonder. But the power of the powerful forces is still growing. Now we can believe that we can overcome such opponents again and again. In the pouch, everything seems to be spared the sense. The same food is available to the child. Those who lack the necessary skills are tempted to fly higher, hit new horizons, and are doomed to failure. Their dream is multidef. The best part for a few minutes passed, and the girl began to think. Sometimes herbalists sometimes have mercy, inadvertently snoring at their cats, which is inappropriate. At this hour, Rio had already finished collecting everything he needed. Before this birth, I wrote, the ability to turn back gave one chance to escape. Prode, aware that death is upon him regardless of the decision, the boy decides to move forward. Just in the middle of a dense forest, a great blue dragon stood on this path. Without a hint of fear of unknown creatures, the Mandrevnik croaks away. Behind the tales and secret stories, the dragon itself wiped out numerous places and villages in one fell swoop, and the most important adventurers found themselves dead. The destruction is new. The little girl's thoughts wander between the shadows, and her heart has already come to terms with the approach of an inevitable end. The voice that came from an unknown distance filled the expanse knowingly, and at the same time the great dragon flew before our eyes. The voice of the most legendary creature seemed to be heard in the moonlight. The dragon, confessing his goodness, sharing his conjectures about the power of the spring. Like the last great glory of heaven, having immediately destroyed the gloom on the earth. Not suspecting that it would become a sweet table of wondrous waters. The dragon resolutely protests. The young man has deep mercy, and even before him is not just a Kazkova, but a true, powerful dragon, endowed with real power. Having told the young people about how an irresistible fate had turned upside down the whole world, slammed into the very sky and tied up their paths, the mysterious Spyrosmonic tisked, "What's wrong with the future? Boy, we feel the shame." But I didn't lose the sense of recognition. The dragon explains in song, no matter how old the boy's soul is, true life is becoming more and more imperious. As soon as the heart flares up wider, more intensely, and the boy himself stretches out his hand to his death, then the path to it opens. Neither heaven nor gods will bestow anything on you just like that, without any special initiative. Having washed this, the dragon drunkenly attacks the boy. What are you really kidding about, child? Destruction distracts one's thoughts. One cannot get rid of what is really going on. Distrust to the point of bitterness does not respect the power of extinguishment. The confirmation made the dragon even more amused, but he didn't bother to resist. At the same time, he respected that households are completely up to the task of winning just one mind. Regardless of those gifts that were given by God, I was never given. Supernatural strength pulsates in me with incredible effort. For the Almighty it is a waste, as it is not worth respecting. Tim sometimes cackles. They won't give in to you. Having declared without saying, neither heaven nor earth will bring the lads any good, unless he himself has offended his own wickedness and blamed them from his heart. His task is only to support the child on the road until death, protecting him from extremes and supernaturalism. Food, aka an arrow, flies from his mouth. Is this not true? Isn't it planned by heaven itself? Who might have started burning like that? The dragon, in light-duty situations, obliges not to overextend, and therefore requires respect. Everything can be explained in a simple manner. Serpent Dragon Khan transforms himself into a fierce teacher for the young man, cultivating his character through the cruel process. My hope is guaranteed, but this prospect does not please me at all. The fate of the necessary preparation passed, and Ruya opened the branch. During the lightless hour, an uncatchable speedboat flew by. Having reached out to the teacher to allow him to repeat the teaching with blessings, the teacher calmly said, "It's too late for you. Instead, I allowed you to wisely take a look at the powerful staff." Ruse comes to the individual rare thoroughness, strikingly sharpened by its wine-colored rice. The thought is constantly tormenting me. The skills are defective. The skills are not sharpened. You need to practice more easily, otherwise you won't get through. But a wise dragon is given to Rozmova, ready to respect the important and the overly respectful. Zodna people are not ready to change the milestone of 90 regions. The words sound overwhelming, and the message flows through. Isn't it all just a matter of training with him? The dragon, however, bears a mysterious expression. Only one phrase flies from his mouth. Dragon serpent, Volodar of the area of 10 million regions. With skin Mitya Spivpratsya opened up more myths. The situation developed in such a way that what happened in this place became a real discovery. But the young man himself is not yet fully aware of the incredible possibilities that open up before him. The thirst for power burned in his heart. Such a force would have fueled the path to the end of a powerful lack of understanding, perhaps bringing him closer to the brink of death. The reader scoffs at the fact that the axis appears in his eyes through bad luck, and the boy smiles and calmly respects. He is simply recalling the hell of his past. We thank you so much for those who were with us. Having bowed in deep reverence before the dragon, the hero feels the poignant words of farewell. The strength that the lads had matured, they captured on their own, step by step, with painful exertion. The freethinker said, the hard-earned fortunes and gifts did not fall to him. And as for the gift itself, don't talk about it. Let's not lose the secret place between us. On this amazing day, students say goodbye warmly, exchanging smiles and wishes for the next day. Having received a new mastership, Rock will decide. The moment has come to vacate the priesthood given to that young man. Dragons, the teacher went away at the wind and disbanded in the distance, depriving the youngsters of their hopes for the future. With impatience, the voice murmured with impatience, how will our paths change again? Wise dragon snake of the witches, whoever is amused by his fate, a new one will inevitably appear. The 5-year period of life has passed, a silent, lost dream. The world of power was angry with the reality of the present, that it was important to tease out where it would end clearly and where it would begin. Behind him was a rapt-like silhouette, and in front of his eyes a wondrous sight appeared, silent before him, stretching out for months. The goblins, who were torturing their stupidity, cried out at the new storm, turning around, rushing at them with ferocity, even as they praised the creatures and asked to learn their fortunes. Without bothering, it became a witness to how the goblin had disintegrated into thousands of crumbling pieces. No one has lost any traces of life, and so no one else will be bothered. At the turn of 10,000, Nekaran anarchy faded away. Jumping around in the thoughts of the dearly ill goblins, slumped and lost in thought. What is the next step? What should you do now? Endless training not only took a toll on the body, but the pain and effort itself erased the bitterness and images deprived of the Australian element, giving the soul a long-awaited relief. In the heat of the moment, his thoughts spun over and over again to the point of obvious triumph. When, having acquired supernatural strength, he laughed with a light heart at his many friends and colleagues. However, with every new payment in advance, the desire to pay wasted away, gradually breaking down in everyday life. Surprisingly balancing between life and death, the hero sacrificed himself for the sake of the world, only for everything to break against the wall of morality. The moment had come when something like this couldn't last. Recalling the hour when, still very small, we reached the fivefold age and marveled at the excess of light. The hour has come again to bring my plan to the hands of the authorities. However, having deprived others of unique benefits, you can completely secure your daily life, final priorities, and solid commitments. Crouching among the great mountain peaks, a quiet murmur of its own accord flies from his mouth, when the melody, sensing value, fills all his respect. The unknown is ahead. The rise in price of these edges can actually turn into a real problem. It seemed to me that in front of me were Georgian robbers, but the proposition lurks uncontrollably. The stench of the ready to accompany the date can especially permeate everyone. If they don't try to force themselves to marry him, it becomes obvious. The only way for them to succeed is the young man himself. On the direct question about the kidnapping of people, there's a lunar storm. Similar calls to ruin their worthiness. These people have simple friendships, although they are limited to light-hearted pleasures. Varto no longer reveals any brownishness, and the price of the full product rises sharply. A short look at the locality of the treasures of the robbers. The slave trader immediately paid a tidy sum for such a valuable treasure. The truth is that nonsense does not give way to the robbers. They are turbulent by the smell of profit. The hero sarcastically respects the powerless attackers, but at the same time respects that the nickname Gerilo Black has long been stuck. Shock washed over him, and his hand did not flinch, cold-bloodedly letting go of the young man's life, singing that the lad himself was calling. The origins of the song. This frying pan is a useful find for MIDI and wrapped attacks. It attacks a vigor that has no equal. Having realized that the enemy will not submit to a simple matter, the man praises his strong decision to save his life. The knowledge strikes him. After the death of his comrade did not stop the bandits, they continued to mercilessly savor the spoils of the best shot, demonstrating the true carelessness and cruelty of their nature. Its offensive is already beginning. Mit, and the robbers grab for their brutal lives. Next to it there is a storage room. The neighbors' courtyards are covered with bodies. The bandit, overcome with fear, blissfully tells the main character about mercy, but in the testimony he senses a cold witch. The harsh evidence suggests, if you deprive the evildoers alive, you will condemn even more innocent people to death and suffering, even if they have already lost many lives and profited from human grief. At first glance, it is important to believe that in front of you is a ruthless man, aware of human suffering. Appearance is deceptive. So why waste days trying to pull this person out of the swamp and turn him back to a normal life? It's much easier to deal with him straight away, without any fuss. And then the silence is broken by the annoying ringing of the phone. Here's the line. While the hero was vigorously destroying Lou, that mysterious young man began to deal with all his enemies. The moisture is perceived as unsalted, but not suspecting that it really stinks. At first glance it seems that Volodar is pushing hard until he gets stronger. The pro-proteinist is telling me, such a gift is not given to me. Gifts with a unique creation will increase the power by 10 hundreds, whose hero is hoping to reach the team. The main character is surprised. With a frying pan, he has to navigate the mountains in the role of his own savior against the evildoers. The success of a ruler does not take away from his faith. Obviously, not everyone's faith is overpowering. The essence of useful power, to decipher knowledge, is revealed in the intelligent sharing of it with those who are absent, and not in excess of the need for power. However, despite the unique value of life, a person with special interests is at no particular benefit, without hesitating to bring harm to others. Besides this, there is a tendency to do mischief to those who are absent as much as possible. Bricon without a vegan sharply portrays an unknown person. The protagonist maintains cold-bloodedness, and is suitable for testing strength. Beneath the ground of the Valley of the Boy there rises a majestic structure, the size of which exceeds the growth of the substrate many times over, and at the same time removes this massive river with just one hand. Do not place it on the ground, but continue to sit on your hands, not allowing the warmth of life to emerge. This lad, with a respectful look, is now sleeping. It seems that he is prating with respect. The little one jumped up and jumped straight up to the next one. The boy's gaze became sharp as he furious. Are you the same slave trader who showed how you have the right to behave with these Tseglins? 100 years ago, the man easily confronted all the accusations, having respected, with these people. He would clash more than a little if the vantage was taken along the road. In the pre-evening silence, when the prisoner is already preparing to close the doors, The ruler declares his purpose from such renunciation, as there is nothing important. As the day closes, a voice sounds like a thought. Perhaps these circumstances will give our hero a chance to express himself. For the wine town, the boy spends more than this sum in the morning, which he gave to the bakers. Having assessed the incredible power of Rumi, he asks him to become his partner. From the buried smak podkopov rozmova, signifying the hostile scale of affairs that his spivozmovnik deals with. At the tone of light fire, respecting that if this profession is known to be 16th on the list of the most prestigious among all possible ones. Having come to terms with the idea of managing finances, having decided on the initiative to pay salaries, it's a pittance. From the point of view, nothing is lost other than the hairless patches on the ground. And, of course, it is to serve the greater good of the world and the creatures who inhabit it. The loud knocking on the carriage doors is accompanied by the following. Whatever is going on in the middle, get ready to roll like hell. There was a little girl in the know. An alarming thought arose. Did this child get dragged down to the paws of the thieves? At the very heart of the kingdom of Centicilium, in the middle of the Shimano Rufascian Center, there is a little girl on the monitor who is on the verge of new achievements. A trusting voice sings in their dreams, and sometimes friendly faces sing sweetly that they are ready to help with the selection of new things. Panic grips the heart when a limitless number of options flashes before the eyes. The choices seem endless, and the head is wrapped in the unknown of what to print. In such a luxurious store, it is pointed out first, and the lack of confidence is humming the jokes on the main character, leaning on the bench, trying to pretend to be of equal importance, but instead the simmering heart was becoming more and more fragile. For this place, such a mood would be entirely appropriate. The girl clearly admitted, for the sake of trouble, it's okay to sing for whatever time, or else you'll take away her stars. The clarification lulled the ice keenly, and grinded out with the resolve to sing for whatever it is. Rapt's proposition to turn on her father's shtick caused a great deal of anger in the eyes of the girl. Without a word, it is known that another blessing ceremony will take place. An alarming, invisible curtain stretched over the village, and one night, while it was calmly dozing, it was suddenly attacked. Comprehension came silently from the clear sky. She fell into the clutches of slave traders. Their tensions made it clear. For a young girl with such an item that is wasted once every 100 years is incredibly expensive. The information about those slave traders could be removed. They buried the heroine of the sign. The voices about her quickly spread among the villagers, and the robbers' wails reached alarming ears. The girl was categorically tempted to turn back home, and the thought of watching the video immediately came to her mind. The warmth burned in both of them, and a sweet voice sang. Soon the stench will reach the place where it was home. Maria became a joker if she buried all her eggs, and if they were not transferred, they threw them at the same place. So why do they need to effectively show up as faithful? Thanks to the facelessness of possible gifts, the surprise from the depositor's bag and snake appeared as the golden horse itself. Having covered the mysterious figure, having abandoned the thoughts of the beloved sense, the girl's wide smile and her generous life became a mystery to everyone. What inspired her to such emotional generosity, but never got rid of it? For some time now their paths have crossed the heart of the capital of Centicilia. With the solemnity in Kyle's voice, she showed great respect for the fact that she was caught on a floating island, and chuckled, "So what?" I felt a short explanation. "It's a castle." The girl quickly guessed, well, the king himself knows the swindler. Her dutiful request to come in was lost without confirmation. The little girl, having tried to stop the engine that stood in front of her, ruined herself and suffered from a real grief. Londite, who loved the guild of suitors, immediately respected. The girl, through her powerful fears, would not let herself crumble further, even as the young man instructed her to demonstrate his superiority and indomitable will. Knowing about those 5 fatalities in a row from her, having spent her time lovingly, immediately awakens in the girl a sense of useful guesses. The main character has reduced himself to the girl as simply a titka, but without allowing himself any nasty words at her address, much less calling her a slut, which others did not say. I got a kick out of the wide turbo as I can cope with in other friends, having learned that they especially value those who have rare talents and unparalleled memory. In my opinion, this kind of establishment for the church is entirely significant. There is still a chamber atmosphere of low cohesion that has not been able to attract new followers. This itself became the reason why independent training was chosen for preparation. Even without special skills, the skin can open up the path of the greedy world of benefits. Anything that needs some support will cause you trouble and trouble. Food began to flow from the girl's lips. Speaking about Mr. Rio, she portrayed him as a mysterious and never-before-seen hero. The person herself appeared at the critical moment and snatched him from the clutches of the thieves. This day, that unyielding determination immediately touched the girl's heart, exposing her to the greed of greedy benefits. Due to this kind of capture, the child's memory of this valley-bearing Zoostrich was lost. A non-turbo friend of childhood is less likely to respect that this lad is my rightful brother. Calls on him to repeat such fearless actions again, which are beneficial to every true prankster. The excessiveness of his promotion of the table impressed Londith, who, without any obligation, secured him to the number of eligible adventurers. Zdivuvanaya suffocated him. If in the middle of all these speeches there was no strain on mastery. Now and then, the girl without a smile would cheerfully fire as she silently followed his training. Everything started to go wrong with her, and the world began to crumble quickly if the hero's path became a slave trader and his assistants. Without hesitation, the hero dealt with them, once and for all, ending the threat. The very thing exalted the one who could carry out beatings with bare hands, and even when brought to the attention of the Lord, such atrocities became a real rarity. In the middle of the moth that the slave traders were transporting, there was a special treasure, treasures that could bring great wealth. Prote main hero, without giving away this valuable item. Documents about the slave trade, contracts and detailed records about such clients. All this clearly testifies to the true origins. Faced with the fact that standing in front of her was a murderer, the girl stood up to him with a lack of courage. Having obscured them, Londith touches upon the most emotional, perhaps most inhospitable subject, even though he thoroughly understands the mastery of that water in the brutality of such belongings. The guild card stores all the data required to complete registration. A red cloud of blood fell on the surface of a special artifact. The characterization of Ruyu flashed on the screen, which somehow ruined him. And even, astonishingly, it was only the 70th century. To greet the Swede with the young man's turn, I'll turn around and show up here soon. Take a look at the statistics that are already displayed on the screen. Reconnect and calm down. Thoughts about the reason for such jealousy swirl around in my head, preventing me from calming down. Londite noted that in one of the works there was a thought about those who can rise all the way to level 99, although she herself did not narrow her eyes at such a thing. Having reached rank 50, the hero rises to the rank, gaining a new rank. And even the one who reached the threshold of the 60th century gains the glory of the true legend. Otherwise, it seems that the map is impossible to show the equals. If you move the 99 sign, then only the other two numbers appear. Just an hour later, the main character reached a timid peak. His raven fell 8,347,907. The meticulous harmony of the Dark Knight disintegrated after one seemingly insignificant disagreement, and the invasion became a rapt break in the basic order. Nevgamovna Bajana is working hard to get her there so that she is immediately taken there. Having completed the initiation rite, maturity has reached maturity and has become an independent identity, so there is no loss of the same basis for the guild, which is based on the principles of the guild. Take part in the registration process together with the student. Temriava cunningly insisted that the time had not yet come to show her intelligence and humility again, and her keen intelligence and courage had more than once granted her brilliant victory. In one of the dialogues, the character thoughtfully expresses the possibility of receiving this information, and the girl immediately retorts, "The object is already staffing the crew." The girl did not know the complexity of the task, but the girl sang out loudly, saying that she was ready to get out of the room. Before Raya-san, there will be a tireless joke of opportunities. Her look is burning, and her heart does not know the car. Having assessed this testimony on the highest level, Knight promptly stretched out the card, where the removal of the Omrian knife was ordered without mercy. The girl's attempt to open the jar ended with a cut on her hand. A portrait of a girl appears on the screen, and the skin of her face suggests a peculiar character. Within the first few seconds, the curtain of the chamber opens. It becomes indestructible. Surprising and alarm beset Law Knight, since the dungeon of the alchemical king became unbroken. Without hesitation, we rushed to look at the range of available knowledge, hoping to find a clue. The truth suddenly emerged. It was about the greatest treasure of alchemic mastery, the rare Triple S qualification. However, Noam never managed to bend this peak. A craft complex of the highest mastery, having acquired the memory of an alchemist, a farrier, and a mechanic. All it took was one talented alchemist, and prices all over the place instantly went up. The prospect of Volodya with such belongings reminded Lovanita of a real seizure. The miracle of the frying pan did not lose its usual doubts. The image that exposed the heroine spoke for itself, leaving all suspicions to rest. The news about those who in the fatherland Noah ignited true chaos swells with a real sensation. The frying pan, which demonstrates unique power, is accepted there as an unappreciated trophy, and now Noah has reconquered. From its appearance, those who wasted on this miracle will immediately lose peace in streaming. Raptov's insight penetrates into the knowledge. This is how everything has turned out between you. In a passionate voice, the girl says, I need to order everything from Ruda, like Anna, and openly believe everyone without a hint of doubt. The disbelief gradually faded away to the point of exaggeration, as one after another appeared the colossal tendrils and tearing ligaments that seemed to be indestructible. Help on your side is completely guaranteed if you talk about it. For those who are in doubt, the support will be unwavering. A special voice hung in the wind, although he spoke reluctantly. Meshao, the knowledge master of the shadowy hand technique, having become angry with the girl with the proposition of making friends, chanted, Strong efforts will help them to reach the top of the rating. Having called her enchanting, the boy proudly declared that at the same time the stench of the building is in charge of the holy days and nights of the phantom, and even the best pair of the year will be revealed. Effortlessly supported by the loud-mouthed headman, supporting the chair, whose task was to get closer to Olma. Having swelled with rage, the enemy disrespectfully called the protagonist Smidium, and, blinded by hatred, rushed forward with the obvious intention of killing. This very night, it was officially announced that the legal right to self-defense had been introduced. The noble hands which they were previously so proud of now know what they are like. The Lickens were sick, because Rue and Noam were already singing their way out of the place, following the designated route. Watching for the skill with which the companion had dealt with the enemy, Rue did not suppress a laugh and blatantly confessed, they seemed to have burned with renewed vigor. Unrevealed knowledge deeply affected the main character, preventing him from speaking without words. The praise about those who did not give up their behavior to the pain of that person did not deprive him of his thoughts. Prot Loudnet is firmly calm. This people have been doomed for a long time, and the rest will be available very soon. Just as Protagon's burying was suddenly in a panic, everyone didn't take their eyes off him, not appreciating his capture. The beginners began to learn, where they became familiar with the mystery of searching and collecting healthy herbs. Having asked her poultry companions about the collection of medicinal plants, the mistress felt a twinkle of praise. The chickens were ready to grow with bark herbs. They are the ones we have. The tender, horny little ones that are dearly cherished in this world. Wash your skin with all the lessons you've learned, fiercely pinching all the thin materials, not allowing any repairs. The skin output of the blonde knight was added to the mouth with black water, and from this very beginning it was unavoidable and useful again. The section begins with the penetrating words of Rosal, who shares with Runova the news. Legends about the incredible power of the young man are spreading throughout the kingdom. To say that in the vastness of these lands, there is no one who can be it. Rod Knight's enemies were rich in facets. His skin was always in perfect order. The mentor said that the training took place in the middle of the year, and the mentor did not waste time in firefighting, calling him a true idiot. She spoke loudly about the fact that all the tasks before her were taken into account. There is a deep desire for the main character to be heard in her words. One marvels at the overwhelming importance of self-tightening to take all the heights. Having completed the march on the right, they planned to go. The young men were already dreaming about turning home. However, the plans were not destined to come to fruition. Lord Knight unconvincingly announced, they will be looking for new benefits in advance, so it is important to track down the extra lands. And here is the place of this world where it is forbidden to approach. This is a challenging time for the boys to try their hand at an expedition from the Lord Knight plan. Not afraid to waste the precious rewards of learning new things, they decided to get tired of their benefits and gain invaluable evidence that would help them become effective adventurers. The news died down during the 3-month period, and suddenly the lagoon began to flow around, like the sound of the dawn. There is no shortage of doubts. On the horizon, it is already visible that the truth is not intersecting. The dark nights were getting stronger and stronger. The crowds were advancing. Once you step in the wrong direction, you will no longer be able to find the way back, and farewell to your lives will become a last resort. The collection of pranksters of the Centralian Kingdom is ahead. This locality is included in the list of forbidden places. No brave soul dares to penetrate here. This place is famous for its sinister name, the Zone of Evil Spirits. And yet, who is the enigmatic one, who tirelessly waits for the appearance of a book? Without the will of the mountains, a miraculous dry barrier will emerge, vigorously defending their positions. Pakmuri forces have already buried perhaps half of this land. Landit has not vainly caught anyone who dares to cross the borders of this territory, becoming the target of unpaid reinvestigation and deadly insecurity. A group of spirits dared to set foot on the fenced-in land, where no living soul dares to tread. Anxiety crept into their midst. Does it really stink already between the stale barrier? In the hero's opinion, for a true warrior's mother, a comrade who does not have the necessary skills is worse for ruin. Moreover, the mysterious guy is familiar with our protein. I affirm that the very hour of hearing has come, or introduce them to them. Activates the enhancement of sound. Like ice, an audible whisper becomes absolutely distinct, and in the case of a disembodied spirit, the silence again receives an elusive sound. This existence, to the great surprise of the young men, appears to be completely passive. The girl greatly wonders. How can such an extraordinary woman use magic without transmitting power and aggression? Londit responds to similar ratings to his address with dissatisfaction. Magical powers have rescued a girl more than once, facing certain death. The greedy resources began to rightfully maneuver between shepherds and troubles. This itself, as we have respected, became the reason for the impeachment of the head of the guild. That girl listened warily, and an unknown sound filled her voice. Panic soon spread among those present, and the master, without hesitation, immediately became furious with the young man. We are confronted with a reality of the most terrible cast. No one, with any known physical forces, can but a little on it. A sharp blow at the onset, burying the spirit. The girls, not suspecting about his incredible misfortune, fell silent with anxiety for his safety. Londate learned from Rodigan that he himself had ordered to talk about the gnome for the rest of this mission. Come closer to... A loud cry burst into a howl, like a loud muffled rumbling sound. Movchasny and surprised, his gaze roaming around the sights of the Gamirny shopping center. The moon screamed, and Londite fell asleep in a state of intense panic. The awakening has come true. The spirits are mercilessly awakening human living energy. It was easy to destroy the enemy completely. It was enough without giving free rein to one's superior powers. Zoden did not notice from those present that the current laws of physics no longer loom over Zoden. Londite still has a lot of translations in his hands, although, most importantly, the technical trick has been thought out. Most likely the real problem turned out to be very serious, if only someone could reveal it. Again, despite all the guardedness of the girl, she dared to take the risk and earn her money. Without a change of direction, the person is directly confronted by evil spirits, at a terribly naughty pace. The journey through this world, it seems, will stretch over 3 long days, without any hope of completely leaving behind. Now and then, the girls are increasingly calling to come in. I saw Venturus open the castle, hiding in the veil of invisible fog, which had erased its outline. Having dug up the ears, it was easy to get rid of it, just as we had sunk before. The storm washed over Ruvia. The fortress was found. A storm of emotions called out from him, and, without fear, rushed after Venturus, since the former master of the guild himself had already acted. I didn't want to say goodbye to the boy, even if I was going to lose my life from him again. Fear gripped the girl when new threats appeared on the road, the very same motor monsters visible under the Lasagna lands. Having settled at the very heart of the castle, the group climbed up the mountain, to the top, where the legendary tower above called the throne. The girl knew the boys very well. She could wrap her guests around on her fingers. This situation has completely cleared up, and even the end of the unsafe situation. With an inquisitive glance, the woman turns to the girl. Why isn't she suddenly slaying the demons that buried the flight? Gnome, without wasting any time, cheers up. This girl is so terribly evil. A new madness came to her not far from the chambers of these spirits. I know, as I was at odds with the Legion, there was a feeling that such a solution was invented hastily, without due diligence or prudence. In front of her stood one of the most powerful figures that this world would reward, a powerful warrior from among the 18 devils lists. Ruea came up with the idea of staying away from the situation, saying that she had obviously wasted her time with her desires. Obviously, this happened through the influx of our protein. The shock comes from burying her thoughts. To feed, in truth, the population of local spirits is connected with this. Surprised, the girl dropped her shoulders, still not sure why these wonderful things had fallen nearby. It seemed to me that these creatures were trying to reach her seat. Skoda, as it dominates the surroundings, grows too much. So the ideal solution would be to relocate the devil somewhere away from the local bustle. The boy's words are supported by Noam, singing that the power of supernatural forces is entirely possible to achieve this nutrition. However, in reality, the girl shakes her head and respects that. Filled with the charms of this little box, I decided to lose myself. And this is what people will do in the future, when the place strikes the soul. It is not for the gift of a mortal to live significantly less than the reduction of this ability, as it may be. How does true wisdom sink in her heart, so that this divine pride arises, sacrificing the dear to humanity? That's how she expressed her thoughts herself. Pride became the subject of discussion. The crafty one declared that since time immemorial, there has been an inviolable law. Those who lack strength are fit to reproach the stronger. If you burst the gourd with a cry and fly headlong at the break, then only be good about the supreme grace. Otherwise, you will inevitably face cruel death. This is what the Diavoli commanded themselves. The proposition from the proteinist dropped into someone of note. She uttered a statement. It's important to overturn this. We must obey our will. Spalakova is filled with anger. The scale of insecurity has not yet been reached. On this reconstituted supermundane Paiha, it is necessary to cost dearly. A lasting, painful death will become a well-deserved payment, which will give you the knowledge of the depths of my life again. Having thrown a cry to the Lord of Evil Spirits himself, Londiad informed, she will overturn everything that has befallen her before. Hundreds of benefits were accumulated in this information due to insecurity. A vile intuition, honed by tens of mandrivas, loudly signaled the great risks of this battle. There was no help. List's gaze narrowed at the girls who were pacing behind the shelves from the treasures. She sings that there is no reason to panic. She gave her word to save their lives and turn there, where the stench is felt by the careless. The mystery of her death becomes unfathomable to everyone. The reason for killing everything is still a nightmare. Turning around, he insists that the stench alerts the whole area about the tragic death of the boy, the very same day of Abionian. I would like people to become like crazy singers, spreading the word about the bad news. There was no doubt, every living soul will not be lost after her. Such cold-bloodedness led the hero into capture. The axis is out. The justice, who is to blame? There is a lot of evidence that the skin of the steppe is opened up to new, even more numerous confirmations. Having realized the true value of life, the heroine firmly chooses to live. And this determination is raptly filled with soft warmth and unsatisfactory kindness. The evil that began in the middle of the fever is being resolved, giving up the place of broad sympathy to. Feeling these words, a feeling of joy appeared on her cheeks. Mitya's burning anger buried the girl. Her forest words sounded so insightfully, her attempt to appease her became obvious. Eurochistically speaking, their life will be lost unfinished, until the operation will not be carried out to the end in all details. Never before had such words spoken to her. A few days before, the boy, having lost this world, decided to give a lecture on the laws and arrangements of the world. She stepped out of the blue, and somehow she pulled out the hearts of the girls, and so that the skin respectfully caught the skin's word. The revelation began with an unsatisfactory realization. 3 types of great things are lingering on the earth. The author of these words belonged to the greatest caste, spirits, the zeal of some kind of connection with the concept of dead man. Among all living and non-living creatures, such creatures were extremely rare. All over the world, there were only 18 of them, and this figure could not help but make one laugh. In other words, between human abilities there is less than 90% of the total potential that the skin possesses. It was clear how they managed to find a way out of this situation. Having poured the leaves from the fire, the heroine loudly accepts the cry. Pick up the leaves one by one. This essence reaches the highest heights of development. Having climbed to the 59,845th level, a real panic set in. The number already exceeded 10,000. It turned out that no living soul could overcome such a greedy threat, and the shadow of imminent death hung over the surrounding areas. Tim was an Albanian for a time, without losing any peace of mind, and even with such a reaction, he also gave up. The main character chuckled in amazement. Do you understand how powerful your dwarf dragons are? Shelina lost her fierceness. Rua hit with such force that he squeezed out a tense bulge. Hevelus was completely overcome by the unbearable element of his powerful life force. The demonic shell of the girl was completely unraveling, flowing through the thick fog that had settled into the fire. Our couple. The denunciation of the lads, who had already lost color, became even paler when he realized that he was not at all affected by demonic forces. If the living energy of the girl herself turns against her, this way her power can be neutralized. Look at what kind of mastery the boys have already acquired. It's boring for me. The astonishing figure, 8,347,917 rubles, lulled out from Rotogenist's mouth, causing her to immediately cry out in an indefinite cry. Just don't let anyone know about the situation. Then her will began to fade, and she unnaturally surrendered to her power. Recognizing the imperious naivety and complete uncertainty of even the depth of pasta that has been consumed, the pain in her voice opens her soul. Tim is a devilist at times. We will unearth the temptations. It is good for the man to betray them, at the cost of powerful mercy. Greater confidence on her side made him feel welcome. Eagerly striving to achieve greatness, she sang that her power is felt deeply to her very essence. With a reluctance, she squealed for praise, which destroyed the powerful peace of mind. The traces of unknown food. What kind of food were eaten by the Spivozmovnik, like the Valetsky serpent or other undefiled natural wonders? The boy recognized the connection with the dragon-like serpent, and it is effective. The demoness's confession was strong. Having said that, with such devices, the stinks shout out to the very laws of the universe and easily turn away from the heirs. Other people's tensions were ruined for the young man. His sense of security became unreasonable for him. Not long ago, it became known about the emergence of 3 different types of natural sources on Earth. Nowadays, behind the boundaries of our reality, in the intangible depths of the whole world, the legendary great dragon snakes lurk, creatures, endowed with the same kind of Vimirs, who tirelessly guard the 2 poles of the butte. Once a decade, these mysterious things emerge from the shadows, giving rise to a possible surge of changes, thereby disrupting the original order of the world in 1 minute. Success consumes the protagonist. This change in promotion has become obvious to him. Walking is sensitive that the dragon snake has shaped the young man himself. Abinion somewhat exaggerates his harshness, and sings that he is ready to act if he is a bastard. Punishes death. Having felt the ice, the girl begins to bury herself in pain, and the man hastily reconsiders. Everything he said was more than a distant fervor. There was a moment of silence at the flight, and at the gateway an avalanche of refreshing food fell on the lad. The number of this level was especially annoying. 17 clearly didn't work. The Master of Swords calmly explained that the map is impossible to show the true strength, and it is also designed to show excess, undervaluation. Knowledge poured out of her lips. It was more than enough to impress, which did not give peace to her thoughts. Prote, in order to accept this evidence, would have to trust and believe it himself. It was known that in her eyes, our main hero had once again shown a special brilliance, and cried out for the truth of the burial. One thing remains unchanged. For those who have sparkle and unstinting gift, they do not play the main role. As a matter of fact, the boys would have to be a little behind, and they would have to set him up once in a while. The constant companion, the bitterness of disappointment and the painful ineptitude in oneself, was not allowed to be found by a calm person who did not overcome the skills required in this locality. 5 long years of suffering have plagued our lives, exposing our every day to the need to meet the needs of the thickets of wild nature. Looking at myself, the hero of the reconciliations, the originality has not yet set in, and even once I have achieved my goal, between my possibilities, it seems entirely real. More and more often, the main character turns to those who have suffered the same fate as Noam. Important Mitya, Pragna jokes with her. The atmosphere under the table is Streaman and Suvor, so that the members of the royal homeland are anxious to separate the power of the land. However, Ruyuya is wise not only to comply with the established rules, but to achieve the highest rank S, or, if she wants the prestigious rank A, we will not brighten up the evidence of her inconsiderable advantages. With an unfeigned smile, the girl eagerly promises to help, adding warmth and optimism to Rosmov. From behind, a voice moans and groans. What kind of charisma does this guy have? The young man's thoughts began to swirl in his head. Why should he still stand in this place, regardless of his stern order? Having declared that the castle was already securely secured, the heroine lost her sight. Turning around, the master added that he himself was now invisible. According to Gayville, this castle is nothing more than a shadow, a prime sparuta, as it was called by her. Finally, the man sternly said, "Don't you dare bring any more unpleasantness." While groaning, Abinion vigorously streamed his praises and tried to swallow a few words from his mouth. "We will once again be deprived of a number of ye majesty having sounded unsatisfactory frankness." A real storm broke out in the girls' faces, corruption and hostility, mixed with widespread disturbances. It seemed that my warnings about the influx of evil spirits had lost their respect. Abinion insisted, "All you have to do is turn off the mysterious tap and everything will go away." Even though no one was spared, about which faucet itself I go to, its success did not deprive anyone of doubts. But it's not enough to say everything. A finely tuned medium allows it to seamlessly expand in the wind, transforming from sticky white to the almost invisible ice-like substance. In friendly company we flew back home, and were pleased to see victory. Perekonanaya mitsnilo. All things are popularized through the statement of talkativeness. The unsatisfactory turn flared up immediately. Protogant confirmed everything without fail. I guessed about the sacred vow that belongs to the Lord and servant. Under the burden of this oath, the devil himself could not lose his side. He must give up his obligation. That place from the girl's words was so deprived of the riddle. The lad did not forget what she had done. Without a hug, the lad adds passion to the kiss, gently sticking out his tongue from his mouth. And this uncontrollable tenderness accepts the girl. How can you reach it so easily? After experiencing the whirlwind of addiction, Abonian decisively said, "Now their souls are intertwined together, giving me the ability to perceive the emotions and experiences of one another. And also, to show respect for. The past few years have given the gift of cutting human rice, if there was no desperate chance to get the right benefits from those who are mighty. Today, the community has not lost anyone strong, and this calls for true joy." Before his glance, an incredible picture flares up. It's all the more fun to fall in love, and in the extra light, new figures emerge in a rush, wanting unsatisfactory details. Zdivuvanya craves him, because all the characteristics clearly appear before his eyes. A modest contribution from her. Even brute force would not have been able to achieve such a thing. After having earned a young man, he was ahead of the girls about their troubles. Without a hint of doubt, the girl quickly gave this important signal. Thoughtfully, without any doubt, it sounded from her voice. "Aren't you really supposed to take it from the hand of the one who brings it?" Looking at the girl, an unsatisfied feeling burned in the depths of my soul. Is it really possible that a demonic spirit is created for such an unearthly attraction? At one point, she herself, with a distinct smile, admitted that before she had not seen a person in a simple word for a long time, or even a special word. Garna. Thus, from that very first day of their marriage, a unique story of two hearts was born. Having turned around to the spot, the fighters attacked the usual stranger, who had been beaten before by the protagonist. It was not long before Meister Prigod learned from the stranger's Degrazil. The same name was henceforth assigned to this man. The unsatisfied woman buried Ruya when the truth appeared in front of him. The boy didn't wash any frying pan or any kind of iron. With growing interest, Ruya looked at the characteristics that appeared loudly on the screen. The lad's ingenuity overwhelmed him. I especially wanted accuracy, so that I could recognize the intensity of sympathy and the passion for titanium. Such information cannot be found on the map. His impatience overcame him, and the food burst out on its own. Who really is this lad? Trying to understand that the young brother Bari's work will not be unmarked. You will have to pay for such things. Soon the brothers from the great faction will conceive a phantom reign. One single hard blow, and the approaching brother transforms into a stream of shadow that looms high in the gloom. The first Rook sharply points his finger at the main character, reproaching his weakness and lack of talent, saying that life lacks both useful skills and worthiness. Tim Dogwitz tries to swing his arms, getting ready to crush his opponent's arms and legs. Turning around to Lendati, he says, "You are my wife and constant companion. During this troubling hour, your quarrelsome presence did not give me peace, but I myself recognize the strength in you that inspires me with courage. I would like to think about it." The turn to the place was transformed into a celebration of holy triumph. That rapt suddenly rolled through his body, invisible, but the intense energy of the Matevo began to change his middle. The subscriber, having decidedly got the hang of the situation, turns to the main character, asking him to allow her to punish the culprits. Prot, with inviolable justice, declares that this food is due only to special requests. Not long before testing, Digizu's heart was filled with thoughts of becoming a devil. These fleeting fantasies could hardly serve as a quiet before the world of inevitable suffering. The order of the Guild of Pranksters was restored. All the Besketniks were taken out of the door, and the day was completed on the right. The sunshine of the new day shone through the guild hall, leaving them in awe. Londith took the floor promptly, delicately beginning the provocative proceedings. Their goal is to lead them along the course that will enclose the dungeon in the dark. First for everything, Londite expresses deep gratitude for the efforts in the cleared plains, which opened up space for the collection of healthy herbs, as well as for the unconditional right of the unleashed disorder, which was deprived of the masters of his cultivation twin cities. Viklik, what should I do to another rank? Nina wipes away the feathers, but with her guilty pleasures she easily avoids the pressures of the day. The realization that the situation is completely under control pervades the girl, and the main character declares that he is much more for her. Then, in the eyes of Avignon, this young peculiarity shone with a bright sparkle. There was a great deal of hostility to her originality and her great originality. According to the words of Wild Master, the team singly breaks the established framework. The growth rate of the team has become possible through their effortless pursuit and direct efforts. The non-turbulence of the boys does not allow them to solve the problem, but the devil stumbles upon a very serious and dangerous problem, not the one that is created by the surface debris. Rozmova talked about their treasures. People from buried treasures sharing stories about power. A threat looms. It is impossible not to step in voluntarily. It's okay either to draw the boys into your snare, or to protect them mercilessly. Now the guild found it impossible to guarantee the safety of its people. The Royal Palace, the Academy of Magic, without any other influx of installations. This list of willing candidates of their capabilities seems endless, and is set to expand indefinitely. We are trying to understand the role of someone else's toy to show their true essence. Wandering in the damp valley, Rui understands. Unless special powers are needed, otherwise a storm will be raised. It will be impossible to concentrate the will, and the half-war will not be ignited by the smallest spark. In itself, power is not an evil, but it is impossible to quickly deal with it for the sake of the vulgar crust. This power exists to create. Unexpected awareness dawned on his thoughts. To improve your team rating, you need to complete more quests. In case of emergency, the master has already prepared a letter of recommendation in his name. The screen is pulsating with the details of the landscape, screaming to the day. It only took 3 weeks to reach the great gates of the dungeon, the grandiose gates at the very heart of the Concilian Kingdom. The incredible scale of the event literally choked the spirit and screamed louder than the burials of the boys. A professional from hydraulic engineering at the name of Chest of Drawers. Immediately after confirmation, Cheese rushes after the protogenist. The youth of the 17th rank, not afraid of any special people, will most likely try to get into the dungeon. She firmly confirms that there is a sheet of recommendation, and at this time the element of Bunyan, sitting behind the walls, respectfully listens to the rose. He was completely overwhelmed by the shock. The sister calmly and firmly stated that both smells are endowed with supernatural power, and everything turns out more beautifully. Young man of wonderful intelligence. For a girl from the 3rd level of the dungeon, a new period of anxiety was experienced. Without any pretense, she would have taken the risk of not being safe, having pleased the Trematis's order. The actual picture turned out differently. We simply blurred the facts associated with you. With great courage, the lad unlocked the doors, calling for the security checks, even though this place was not at all suitable for romantic walks or cheerful gatherings with friends. Without worrying, I chuckled, since those truly endowed with supernatural abilities often find it more pleasant in the dungeon. At this point, Kama smiled and said mysteriously, "You? The truth is that if you don't try, you will lose your talent and mastery." Tim, who has a lot of skills, tries to live a more colorful and possible life, and it's much easier to navigate his way through life. Without a shadow of a doubt, she knows that she is right. Many people who have not had happiness are entirely happy with her changes. The first milestone is already close. The axis will emerge from the roots of Miscanthus. The atmosphere was wary for a long time. The object was uncontrollably growing on a small area that looked very wonderful. The girl was beckoning to come closer, but the boy hastened to watch her, standing on guard. A pasta was visible. A beautifully unusual victim treads between his blood. The skinny monster entangles him with his body and soaks up all the blood, without depriving him of any chance of recovery. Unfulfilled pressure reaches the point that it seeps through the ground, leaving behind traces of miserable blows. Everything is surrounded by the fiery veer, burning with the destitute element. The route has been designated, and Ruya tisked. Does this match their jokes? The depravity sank into shame. Having stumbled on the edges of insecurity, it was necessary to joke around. At the same time, the confessor murmured, "That's why I immediately pulled out your star. Don't be crazy, mister. This route is richly greater for you. The chances that the dragon Mez will reach this path are practically zero. The probability of success does not reach 100. There is a thirsty soul not to worry about what Volodya is asking for information about this rite." Having carefully examined the subject, the girl activated a special talent, the talent of the alchemic lord, who walked crookedly to thoroughly learn speeches. Previously, the same scene was already small, just before the hour of one of the training tests. The meta is coming. Rig Kiki. The images of striking dimensions, as the true horned wind was guessing with its outlines. Lezo easily grows through steel armor, stripping the sheet of metal in front of him. In other words, the triumph is for Rio itself. The species was awed by reality. A supremacy, invitations. It is known that such a thing had not been heard before. Club China, intoxicated by the wide variety of flowers, quickly bursts into life asking, "What is this?" The girl began to sing. This material is considered ideal not only for the creation of armor, but is valued as a Vinyakov component for alchemical traces. The young man seemed to have amazing brightness and inexhaustible energy. The reception of the Yogo fell asleep, if in the middle of the hunt the rare trophy was again harvested. Glory to Volodar of the Alps. Rua's gaze reaches out to the girl, and she moons and asks unsatisfactorily, "Isn't it important for Kiki to be given pennies? What can she wear?" The engine conductor, having begun to share the story about the final ingredient, hears that it is usually not necessary to confine yourself too deeply. Having lost the red sand in front, having acquired a threat in itself, it means that there is a lack of care for the original materials, before which stinks have already begun to arise. This chanting is accompanied by the blessings of the story behind itself, as the lad's depravity grows, the mastery of which he writes, he raptly knows, and everything will go wrong with the stolen Marna. It will never be clear. Volodya Rea will fulfill the necessary needs. Sand, slightly soft and wine-clean, is valued as an important ingredient in prepared liqueurs. However, it is impossible for you to shut up with the wind, as it quickly disintegrates into the silent half-mercury. For the sake of powerful security, this mysterious mineral does not dare to attack whatever is approaching. For this ruthless power itself, it was dubbed the Mercury Killer. Expanse, where they revealed it. Rua explains the conjecture, because the speech takes a rare form, and it is impossible for us to carry it through the world. In the distance, the ruined middle of the overtaken vines of the crooked cherry sand, the Omrian goal appeared, the alluring silhouette of the dungeon, surrounded by an aura of mystery. Thoughts were rushing around in search of vehemence, like the gold of someone's unsafe enemy. The hopelessness of the sky fettered the conductor. Every physical attack did not erase the trace of the origin, and the deadly attack further complicated the formation. Perhaps there is a hidden key to victory, which still needs to be discovered. The main character is not going to do any harm. Ruya, with inconspicuous humility, voices out to Noah that he himself will have to escape from these misfortunes. Move the hut by the water, rushing straight to the mysterious speech. Let's attack these tabletops, so it looks like the boy is planning to steal unsafely. Mitovo, after a short journey, Mercury sharply lowered its roar. Slowly emerging from the deep abyss of the lake, the mystery haunts me. How did this guy manage to escape alive from... In the middle of Mercury, Ruya drifted, completely giving up, the remains of every living soul, and did not know how to counteract the labial speech that was inevitably collected at the screen. The Rodiganist felt, through everyone, that it felt miraculous. The girl insisted on her duty to help. Young and disgusting. I don't know what problem he has. The moon has dawned before the wedding. It is not safe. The time has come for decisive actions. Abinion's gaze returned to seriousness when she spoke. The brave little one is shaking his body in the face of inevitable sadness. Realizing the importance of the moment, Devilist turned to her with groans, to convey this message to her. In truth, compared to the outside world, her body is very healthy. There is no hint of the simplest words, either wind or sour. We turn around, having already lost our thoughts, until we clearly sort out everything from the police to survive. The guide of the dungeon raptly informed her pardon. The lad, with the addition of some charming talents, Volodya with a keen mind, which easily compensated for the lack of riches. Reconnaissance with incredible joy, as if you brought a lot of wine with rare materials. Burned out your thoughts, although in the depths of your soul you were allowed to agree that you would be lucky to spend it on your life. Supra-principal specialness. The cultivation of the guild's stoneware is not a little between. The plant of the Waikanali was brilliant, which seemed simply incredible to him. The decision to recognize the guests from the head of the crafts guild, known among people as a saint, came with special urgency. The concept of a crafts guild is no longer a mystery to anyone, so he is likely to go back to Londith, thereby unraveling the meaning of these words. Unprepared for the wonder, they eagerly appreciated its mastery, and even burst into obscurity, which, behind the complexity, reversed the manifestations of riches. Senju informs you, not everyone can remove the skin around the skin, but even the most advanced adventurers of the highest rank would need it for a long time. The room was no longer open, so the young man was told to sit down. At this moment, my thoughts began to spin around what could slip out of the artist's eye and lose me an unmarked representative. From these materials there was an opportunity to create something even more special. At the center of the discussion, 3 key components were identified: an anesthetic, a tonic, and a secret word called chervoni. The updated version of the original challenge gains unlimited power. It allows you to turn back at the end, and gives access to the other wonders of the update. Palace. It is impossible for anyone, like a hired healer or a famous alchemist, to commit such an atrocity. The task seems inevitably uncanny and even absurd. At the Pivnichny gathering, the battle against the demons is gaining momentum, and the eventual end is still far away. Of course, the alchemist's mastery has become apparent, but you won't find a natural engraver with such a specialization in this game. In one kingdom there was a special title, a person whose value outweighs gold itself. Just before the hour of the blessed ceremony, there is almost such a voice, and everyone looks like they will be chained to happiness. The awareness of the inevitable loss of the task is painfully pressing in the middle. Even if you don't spend more than 1 hour, a colossal amount of pennies is at stake. I'm insisting to you myself, don't stop bothering to write. With the arrogance in his eyes, the boy becomes wild with ignorance. What is your name, and what kind of treasure do you want? The girl does not care about any of these things, and openly recognizes that she contains the gift of a good wife alchemist. How these hundreds of years are born, and why trust is placed in this people. Yuva desperately rushes to Londith, trying to understand why, with all these people in the guild, she hasn't noticed the one yet. Londith explains with a grin, no matter what the situation, there are chances that you can invest in it to support it. Last week, the first job was completed. Instead of the usual cans of preserves, 300 bottles of the exhibition appeared, which certainly stirred up all the Mandrivniks. Already at the beginning of the morning, Senjui turned into a girl with the proposition of becoming part of the mastercraft community. In a voice equal to firmness, it means, this place is not yours at all. Those who earn the title are Lord of Alchemy, one of the most prestigious professions. The city will cry out for such mastery. The generosity is privileged, and the insensibility of treasures already looms large in front of her, in the appearance of generous decorations. Ignoring the respect of the Spivasmovnik, the dwarf casually throws out all the propositions. For a lesser order, without a wagon, one rushes to Vikanovati Daruchain. A new sparkle of sweetness appeared in the eyes of the girl. It's important not to notice how sweet she had become. If a woman is modest, she immediately opens up in a new way. And it seems that the very beginning of this quest became a turning point for her. Please agree not to enter until your plans. Moreover, another victory appears on the horizon. There was no shortage of doubts. The supply of zillage significantly exceeded the norms established by the royal palace itself. Such a result is a true reflection of mastery, which deserves the highest praise. Surprisingly, the king of the Vishov himself was standing right next to them at the walls of the royal palace. Mandrivniki fell in line with the king himself, Leonard Frederick. This ruler himself straightened all 13 to Killian Alorix. The king, having acknowledged their achievements, said that they had conquered from the right the year of the greatest burial, and the prepared zillions would become a ruin for the whole region. Having seen all the complexity of this experiment, Leonardo could not believe that he would end up with such difficult tasks. For the young pranksters, this victory became a great achievement, and the king, having already grown tall, turned to the city to give them proper manhood. The ice flowing three-tone, the chant about the return of giving is mooning. Ruga is wondering, why did the king himself, deeply aware of the difficult reality, still trust the crown prince to such a task? Obviously, everyone in the environment dictated their own rules and extracted decisive actions. The most important thing is to give them the strength of the green spirit. The referee's finger points raptly at our main character. Ruea is dying, ruined, yet her face was still full of ecstasy. And now the mood for the duel has changed so quickly that she can't get ready in the face of unrest. Asked by Naruto, "Is it true?" Hangs in the wind, but the silence is slightly less oppressive. The relative from the treasures takes up information about acquaintances, trying to find out that, for the most part, the isolation of a reliable defender. Rosmova took a drag for almost an hour. Nasha King discovered the whole truth about the slave traders and the sweet little girls, as well as the success of the fact that all the rare materials were obtained without outside help. Out of interest in his voice, the king asks, "What is the origin of our hero? In absolute calm the moon sings, there is no such unique quality. Such a big heart that was with me until the very end." With fierce determination, Ardo abandoned the doctor, from whom the world does not marry those who unapologetically accept their wealth lest they injure themselves. But now in front of them is the king himself, and all the talents of his subjects can serve for the good of the kingdom. Volodar Ardo called the acquisition of his mastery nothing less than a true evil. A thoughtful voice murmured, "Why should I show you my guild card?" The proposition was immediately supported. An incredible sight stood before him. It was important to believe his powerful eyes, and never before had he caught someone without. A dissatisfied voice crashes into her voice, breaking off the word. The king's minister of knowledge, Gusad Kamil, said, "The merits of the Spivrosmovnik are clearly greater, and even without the blame, it would have been impossible to achieve something like this." The recontext suggested to Camille that such statements were nothing more than an attempt to ingratiate himself with the monarch. The addition of the required talents, of which nothing appears. Then the respect of the king is much more deserved by the girl who stands in charge of the alchemist. The time has come to ignore Rui. No one else will dare to earn anything. The girl was reconverted, so that all her money was directed solely to her benefit. Having spoken, it is not possible to be in the middle of nowhere and nowhere. One of the boys said to the Krijans, "There is no price for such departures as wine." She loudly announced to everyone, "Ryasan is the only warrior," and she threw any images to her address with unbreakable chant. Raptova wine from the beginning categorically confirmed. Everything was clear. With a majestic statement, the demonic ruler spoke before Yusima, eagerly insisting on glorifying the name of her ruler. This threat hung over our heads. Anything that could happen would inevitably lead to a catastrophe. At first, I passionately conceived the idea of wiping my lord out of the entire kingdom at once, but now I have taken a different path, having decided to stand on my own. The parallax surrounded the king and his minister when this beautiful woman stood in front of them. Abinion, clenching his teeth tightly, dares to ask for permission to infuse his idea into life, and the young man is a young man who is completely tired of the power of Turbo. The minister orders the Ocaronians to launch an attack on the Garmata. The chant about the constant battle spirit was sung, and at the same time Abinion literally beamed in triumph. Her voice sounded with sly irony when she called the servants pitiful small fish. There was a reconception. Even if a whole army of such people were gathered, each force is not equal to their power. And in truth, reality confirmed the skin word. When asked about the operation, the man carefully turned to the boy. I didn't realize how I heard it. How Abinion immediately got in love and loudly said, she began to cackle loudly, "Hevelus will give a voice to all the unclean spirits that roam the world." It is published under the name Disbelieved, and it is not at all surprising that this is the servant of our Prodigan. Surprise spread among all ears. Nevgamov's thirst for collapse appeared to be under his control. At this time, the achievement is different from a completely different light, which still remains in our way. The minister, however, counters this, firmly stubbornly, that most women try to deceive him. Among such people is the one who now experiences the whiteness of Kahuta, at once out of nothing, spared any unnecessary things. Behind the words of Kasaid, the king faces a difficult choice. how to drain his courage and strength, and throw a shout at the careless monster. Returning to the minister with the nickname Fox, asking, "Have you run out of ideas?" The sheer size of the girl greatly stunned him. It was easy to be captivated by the sight of the true majesty. Wrestled by the most powerful dragon, this warrior has achieved incredible strength, reaching over 8 million. In the midst of this power, Ruyo was awakened by a powerful insecurity. She immediately invariably saw all her trump cards, which made her feel angry and disappointed. Faith and capture consume the soul. This thought lingers in my head. The real minister is hesitant, calling them the obvious guesses of a child. A light or even precise blow to the forehead made the minister calm down, and then murmured an uncompromising statement. This man is nothing more than a pitiful bastard, whose mind does not go beyond the boundaries of intersecting human phenomena, and deserves less for the ignorant. That time the young man drew his supernatural power from the mighty dragon, whose power burned with new peace for only 10 short days. Joy filled Alice. She was able to share her knowledge and open new horizons to people. The boy, having noticed her efforts, praised her, and in the depths of her soul the girl was convinced that she would also inevitably get the job done. She taught her new lesson, immediately tisking those present. For her reconsideration, since he has such a significant level of mastery, Vlad seems to have gained even more in her eyes. The Leddy family has a deeply rooted noble tradition of serving their fathers, and very soon they will be on their way to becoming a general. It's too much to hang around so you don't dare Ruea to shout out for a duel. The incrimination of the representative of the Centracilian kingdom burst into flames with the possibility of rushing to fight the adventurer. Ruea was in no hurry for an hour. Her gaze respectfully ran through a series of characteristics of a potential opponent, trying to evaluate the skin debris. The warrior's characteristics appeared on the monitor. The enemies were not so much those who had crossed the 20-year mark and had already reached 31 levels, but rather those who, Leda emphasizes, his master Volodin's martial mystiques benefit from the truth of his attacks, and even supernatural power can cause real insecurity. With pride, she proclaims her rightfulness, emphasizing what she remembers, without a shadow of a doubt of reconciliation, Volodya mastery, which will overturn everything. Eunuch sings that he is married to such a memory. Her words sound like a constant misunderstanding, and even she has no doubts. She is on the right side of a person who is extremely quick-witted. In truth, the boys manage to notice the most. Their forces multiply at once from the expanded number of people. There are already close to hundreds of faithful people behind her, and as a result of the battle, her support is bearing remarkable fruit. Mighty words give this attack a thunderous force. The blow will be strong 20 times. This is of primary significance. Nietzsche easily realized that it would be possible to get to the point of sparring with her. On the right, she was unreasonable, even believing that she would never swing, and her opponent felt all the pressure of her blow. According to Revis, there are no everyday problems. Their speech is in good order, so you won't be tempted. The desire to feel the right mind on yourself encourages you to counter the blow with full force, and thus will not be disappointed. It is obvious that all these replicas are driven by one goal: to give you images. Having accepted this proposition, the boy is overjoyed. Just try not to do it like that. The blinding swing rose in the wind, swelled with the ferocity of the battle, and the sword in her hands fell into incredible force. One enemy rock, and the technique Stopterzord is flying in this very place. The looking-out hall resounded with loud splashes and reverberating shouts. It seemed that such a reach without a painful, dry mastery was simply unrealistic. No one could be spared, in such a way that everything became possible. S calmly recognizes, everything that has fallen out has been subject to slight displacements of his powerful body. The understanding is clear. Why did the Raptov superintendent become the target for the attack? The greatest blow was expected to fall, but this reporter's strength was based on instinct. The girl's voice emphasizes that she is not a representative of a beautiful state. However, the main character does not waste time immediately bringing up the thought of his dignity as a human being. He magnifies his lord, recognizing him as the most powerful one. The rest of the king's decision had already sunk in. He couldn't lose his way back. How can you get Rua to accept this call and create those that everyone respects the impossible? I ask you to come before the road from Lelades for the first exit, having reached. Demons threaten this world, and the kingdom urgently requires this unbreakable force to lead humanity to destruction. In the face of the insecurity of humanity, it is impossible for humanity to know the strength to resist. Rueya, having collected all her courage, began a battle with the demons. Despite the presence of special talents, some of the diets of you can be compared to others. Several years had passed, and the first front line at the Sanacape gathering appeared in front of them. The crooked Rizanina did not know any fate, having dug up absolutely everything. In his words, 6,000 fighters are concentrated on the front line. Another 1,000 are defending the lines. But those on the battlefield have flared up not for their own sake. According to the plan, the delivery was entrusted to her. The senior commander is standing in front of the spotlights, and behind him, inaccessible, is his reliable sidekick. All the necessary infusion has already been drained to a drop. The rapid onslaught of enemies caused the war to consume all the reserves of Zil. His forces were catastrophically wasted. After the recent course of the battle, the senior commander was shaken off. Before your eyes, you still notice the incredible evilness of what is happening next to you. But there is no time to lower your wings, calling out to the silence, the complete silence of the endless shedding of blood. I intend to lift the demonic hand with my mighty hand, and Abinion sings, the essence of reliving the loss without difficulty. It's time for the decree to grow up. It's time to go into this world. Verna followers call on the devil to get all the necessary materials, or else she will begin creating new exhibitions without any help. There is a chaotic buying up of all the tools that Noam snatched from others. In the doubtful voice of the hero, the desire for the girl is lurking. How can we really get her strength to carry out her plan? The mastery of a professional alchemist was poured into their hands. The news about what happened on the front line shocked everyone who knew it. The words of eternity flowed loudly. The fighters calmly conveyed messages to those whose wounds were most serious, trying to help us before they needed it. For the whole world, Shan became an inextinguishable message of hope, brightening the individual with light and intensity. Singh's Nibilonde has already ruined this topic earlier, recalling the incomparable courage to extend a helping hand to everyone. The main character places all his respect on Volodar of the Spirits, making him more important and generously nourished. It has the power to absorb energy for itself. Is it possible to know a way to stop this process from unfolding? Uncontrollably, the entire battlefield burned in a thick, impenetrable flame. Everyone felt a sense of relief. What else was there to do? How about the one we were chasing? Using her strength, the heroine harnesses the living energy of the main character, which can inevitably lead to his renewal. The devil sings to the boy, which is both of them. This is a simple routine, without which he cannot do. But in the heart of the girl herself there is a secret fear, which is not destined to be confessed in words. The overriding goal is the healing of everyone. Even in this way you can alleviate the existing pain and restore strength to the skin. In just 1 hour, the healing power has given relief to thousands of souls. It's amazing what the ground is preparing for a real revolution. The axis of the heart is bursting, and sensitive feelings are scattered among people. Without her hands, we could see the alarming faces of our brothers-in-arms, who still could not go away today, because all the benefits of the reports were due. Without a shadow of a doubt, they respected. Every time they did not have to take off their clothes, because in their opinion, they looked unfit to wear. Ailey Charming Night turned everything into a wonderfully unforgettable one. The strategists mocked the maps and unanimously decided, the entrance of demons is a very secret phenomenon, behind which there is a danger of planning an attack. Dolanala Ice Nevagoma command transferred to. Having lit up the sheet, she informed, now on her shoulders is the command of the entire army. Use your guesses. Guess those marvelous talents that they reveal from others. By adding a new light to your team, you will reduce the increase in strength by as much as 20%. At some point, the power may become deprived of being modest. On the battlefield, one rule came to light: the loyalty of one power. The skin of 7,000 warriors is now in the position of relief. The restlessness of the war is mourning. Under the pressure of future tests, the body membrane can become golden. I have instructed the 7,000-strong army to rise 14 times. The risk of the fact that the body does not show attention to the hour of the greatest blow is high. But at the same time, the look of the pan has an unbreakable determination. The royal oath is sworn to protect the kingdom. To avoid the threat, there is no need to worry about the risk of eliminating insecurity, which may lead to paying the highest price. The rest of the word is lost for Lesledzi. The only way to go further is when the situation becomes truly hopeless. By this time, Rua and Noam were already revealing an unhealed number of people, exclaiming hope from the most skeptics. It turns out that it's a complete waste of life, Rua said. As soon as the battle begins, the expanse is filled with a threat. Look for the safest corner. Otherwise you will become an easy target for the deadly skills of the Leslans. If you think about it and try to get involved with them, you will only get one chance. Our hero, who has to solve his own particular task, is given a tense and unsatisfied hand. Of course, I'm not up to date with these methods, but I decided to join in and disturb Ruiz, not giving me peace of mind. To say that this sleigh, which was able to spin more than one life, has turned into a true symbol of hope for everyone. Having tried everything, the hero dared to set foot on the roads of battle. Armed with Krisian power, Ruiz stepped onto the battlefield. A girl's figure loomed far behind, however. In the depths of Leslance's soul, there was no doubt about its future fate. This mastery was infused in the actions, and this determination was lived by this power. At the same time, they created an insurmountable image of a true hero, having wondered why something important for the main character would not appear. Self-sacrifice for the sake of saving a deformed girl seems to me the pinnacle of nobility. Trust for the sake of Roiga allowed her not to get hung up on anyone, and calmly let go of her worries. Sensing to a simple young man for support, and also, whose gesture is not deprived of wine on its own. This sword fell with the unsatisfied resolve of 7,000 young hearts. The Leslans gave them their lives, trusting everything, both you and her. Otherwise, there will be a chance to turn the girl into a truly special one. It does not lose its shadow of doubt. This essence is mine without costs for their pursuit, and the incredible mastery of the ally will become a priceless advantage for everyone. Becoming a key figure is the axis that King Leonardo himself punished. The secret of the young man and the king was to serve him with a tight guard. But soon the uncontrolled anger escaped from the young man. Those who fell asleep in her hands shocked the soul to the depths of their souls. The moment had arrived when the demonic dragon collapsed forward, unleashing its dark deeds. The number of actions was flashing on the monitor, and the endless effort to erase everyone until the last one did not deprive the chances of a recovery. According to the warnings of journalists from Abinu, close to 30,000 demons have gathered nearby. Rising from the sky on their wings, the Stinks rejoiced, not streaming with laughter, and said, "While mortals fall, our gnats, the innocent, will gather." And the demon coldly ordered him to put his words into action. The true essence of demons is revealed before your eyes. The axis of what stinks is true. The main connection between the hero and his true likeness. Having guessed what sins his fate brought him down with this annoying truth. Among all the demons whose names I know, the question sounded sharply. How serious is this guy to put himself to shame? She declares that such kindness to her mother is a manifestation of true wisdom. It is necessary to work without calling. Clean up carefully, and then take care of everything yourself. One chance, the axis will be realized. Fear for security does not drown out the resolve. In her heart there is an indomitable faith in victory. I'm sorry. It's time to stand for Ruea, in whose hands there are as many as millions. Nastia's anger is stronger than everything, and her heart trembles in shock. Vidgumin these podi idosi clearly manifest itself, immediately guessing about its true nature. The invisible mitts opened the expanse, predictably sleeping in the atomic Vabuhu. Having lost sight of the military's glances, the song of awakening to the guilt of their uninvited comrades has long since taken deep root. Recheck that Lusland is all over. Invited by the unconvinced attack, they were still able to take away an important part of the powerful army. It looks like she's already running out of strength for another blow. The voice reaches Noami, and there is a flash of light flying around his side. Zilla was in his hands. The girl greedily fell to him, scattering specks of skin without any need. Without hesitation, she began to liquidate the power of the wound, and, having overcome the problem, she tried the most amazing thing. Gnome, calm and confident, said, "The supply of elixirs has yet to be exhausted. It is agreed that the most important thing is to concentrate on preparing for the next stage. It's important to note that after the girl's brushes have healed and the wounds have healed, the skin swelling will help relieve pain in the future. Know whose sign is important." Ignoring her completely, the boy briefly decided to let him down so that he could have been told. That very same man had already grimaced another vibrator. Having received another dose of Elixir X, the team gathered its courage and promptly destroyed the battle, launching the third attack. It's time for a new round. Forge magic spells and prepare under tension until the final blow. Once again I walk along the long-known stake. Vishukani Stravi serve only as disguises, and even by deception they will deceive you into living in the land. The throat was scorched by the radish, which they cunningly sipped on for the added aroma of herbs. The sickly mixture burst through the surface, mudding the body of the 3/3 in the face. She sings that she is able to deal with 30,000 demons, at the same time questioning the effectiveness of her efforts. He himself stated that this is primarily a human struggle, and not any other struggle. Without this unfathomable mastery, the army of the kingdom could be united in order to meet the demonic influx. The extraordinary power of these mortals opposed the spirit of the most powerful demons, who escaped alive from battle. The demons were definitely separated from their incredible talents. Ice, casting a glance at the snowman, the mysterious demon tisked, "Why don't you turn around and go home?" However, sensing confirmation, he reluctantly waved his hands, saying, "This cotton is not at all suitable for his plans. My head is already ripening the need to have some real fun, and nothing can bring such satisfaction as the adrenaline from someone else's death." Having loudly voiced his desire to oppose the main character, the unknown man finds Rui's imprisonment. The young man has promised to give her a miraculous achievement, and we are waiting until the end of the new month. The story has come, for the sake of which the readers have been patiently huddling, and the demon, with self-conceit, respects that we can patch this up without much fuss. With reconciliation, the main character will say in his eyes, Benian's loss will open up an empty heart, as the years have darkened and filled with fortunes. The demon, with inconspicuous humility, convinces himself. The real cry here is only himself, and not an entire army of 30,000 demons, whom he disrespectfully calls hopelessly bad. At this hour, his insides are filled with a triumphant feeling. The very thought of the impending death of these unimportant creatures reminds him of the feeling of capture, even if he is condemned to endure the eternal torment of his remaining city. Help the greatness of the titular demons come to the surface. Their abilities to fight. Besides incredible strength, they unleashed a whole arsenal of unique skills that were not seen by outsiders. The impeccable flow of words from Yang's lips could not destroy the terrible peace of Ru, who was deprived of her Beiduja up to her heights. Nezabar is preparing a vicious attack on the main character. I call upon the thick curtain of acidic fog, which appears all around, burning the expanse with a deadly gloom. Having huddled in a thick layer of acidic fog, the group walked out safely, quickly gaining a chance for a successful exit. The true power of demons is found in the expansion of unique features. Before the eyes of the main character, everything falls apart in a deep fog. This impenetrable darkness clearly speaks of the abyss that separates the power of people and demons, as Ben Young noted. Your voice is full of wonder. What is it that bothers this man to do the work instead of just going in? In the event that life does not blossom, the life of the warriors will stumble under the threat, and they will have to live in peace. With a sly thief in his eyes, the man slyly winked at one of those present. The ruler's intention became obvious to her. Without hesitation, she immediately began to force his will into life. A loud boom burst into silence. The bullet quickly sunk into the demon's body. The unburned white water calls out again. The well-known acidic milk of the Raptovo has appeared as they were pressed, and this change does not contribute to its information. It sings that its origins are immeasurably strong for the demonic spirit, which Proteobinian will resolutely deny. A look similar to the condemned one presses into the new one. The call of demonic nature sounds directly and without any doubt. Without you, he wanders into the unknown, not suspecting what the devil may call to forget. The incredible powers of spirits of high rank will deprive the most powerful demons far behind. I am amazed at the fact that she put a lot of pressure on people. The numerous arguments voiced by him are lost without being countered. It seems that she is simply cowering before the will of the one who overturns it by force. An incredible reality shattered all doubts. The person who stood in front of him destroyed a powerful demonic spirit, destroying the original order of speeches. Now there is no longer any doubt. The powerful eyes began to believe in the supernatural power of mortals. On stage is the leading hero of the day. The unsatisfied will be buried in him when the light bursts forth through the marvelous unknown eyes of the devil. A being quietly creeps up to the master, carefully inhaling his scent, and with a sly smile asks that it was not for whom they called here, so that she could once again check the safety of all soldiers. It's true, she sings. The one on the right is already Vikunana. The soft Dodic of the valley, which crawls through the hair of the devil, is accompanied by a wide range of activities for the Viconian Prohana. It is incredible to feel the peace of his heart, such as warmth and trust. The indescribable humility tells you, it's simply impossible. The acid has been aggressive for the primary acid 500 times, and its use in such a hot medium is tested at the limits of human capabilities. Sleeping here for the housewife feels like a hopeless spiral. To be a lad with a loud voice which destroys human nature. Rui says simply and honestly, "So, I'm a basic person, nothing special." Murder is not included in the character's nickname, but the demon who expresses contempt for humanity accepts their death as easily as possible. The lad, uncatchably stumbling, simply scurried up to Benion's. It is expected that the young man will suffer the consequences of his death. All it took was one blow, and half of his head flew sideways with a noise. Bazania will wake up, whose man has not sensed it. But if his mind is lowered, no longer shouting threats. Activation of intensive regeneration deprived the demon of its incarnation. Rio does not dare to do anything. A protagonist with a crazy Swedishness hoarsely with a hail of miserable blows. The unbearable pain rinsed the body, the sweat did not allow the butt to go, and the frantic pace of the battle felt an inevitable defeat. The lad was about to suffer a fatal blow. The death that awaits one is in no way different from what it brings to other ordinary people. An endless silence pervaded everything, and a blindingly bright month fell in the sky. He unconditionally exalts his master, who knows those wondrous hours, and his greatness and greatness. All the signs that appear around bear traces of the devil's approaches. The great sky is filled with bright light, and the understanding of what has become worse spreads among the soldiers of Mitta. Respected Viguxona turns his respect to his father. Look there. All eyes are immediately drawn straight to the meaning of the story, and the hearts of our heroes are squeezed in peace. The atmosphere is filled with broad joy. The gentlemen decide to go home, and this holiday brings a feeling of confusion among all those present. Reconverts to geraloprotein. The girl says that she can already sing on her feet and asks to be let go, even if she feels like she's getting help. Sings. Yakbi fell asleep in the arms of our hero, carried just like that, happily re-smelling the skin. Abinion says with a grin that she would definitely fly to the sky with joy. A few years have passed, and already 2 Mandrivniks crisscross the great street, which is famous for the triumph of King Kent Killian. I guess that the harshness and aggressiveness in the actions of the local bastards is clearly greater. At first glance, the situation seems somewhat absurd. The demonic army has fallen without any meaningful opposition. The locals, filled with turbulent joy, are already celebrating this occasion as an unfulfilled triumph. This person has an undeniable peculiarity. I want to know all the details simply from the words of those who, having taken part in battle, also see a command. To make your confession. Every nuance and the smallest detail flowed into Ardo with the right grip. Every word did not pass through with utmost respect. I am proud to announce that Noom herself also helped her escape. Rui herself, having made the greatest contribution to the victory over the demons, and her heart is completely sad, since I am obligated to hand over the greatest rewards for my courage. Looking at his new comrade, he accepted his words with unsatisfied joy. Such a victory would not have been possible without the strong skin of the crown. The king will not raise all of them to the level of aristocrats. Ardo stands unpretentiously. His resolve does not raise any doubt. Invariable dissatisfaction gripped the king's lieutenant, among whom the common people had never become part of the new aristocracy. There was no such thing as a stretch, and they talk about people who could become famous for their money spending. The fierceness is clamoring for him. Between the Vibukha, the patience is still resting. Simple people can grind and make big bucks, and whose message will be more than sufficient, and even the minister, it seems, has no intention of resting on what has already been achieved. To bring this to your attention, they themselves seem to be of particular thickness. Tired, I will say. The king's rightful mission lies with the wise ruler of the country and the passion for the people. Once upon a time, Rua herself became a warrior, clearly demonstrating loyalty to her duty. The noble title, taken away by it, is not high and honorable, but it is also small, a symbolic sign for the service rendered. The miraculousness of this scene is so powerful that tears come to your eyes. It's fair to say that Rui is ready to accept the path of an aristocrat and lose her allegiance to an ordained servant. Leslids does not get into trouble. He is happy with grace, and then you will find out the truth. The minister gives a clear order. Turn around those who are justly obliged. The news about the appearance of a high-ranking guest at the castle came to the fore. Obligations must be given promptly to the soonest arrival, and then move on to the pleasures of a powerful decision. Whose side did the minister take? Fueled up to Lesledzi comes out of the mouth, trying to understand who she really is. The inspiration of great power appears in its guise. Will you never guess the essence of power? I am determined by the will of specialness. With particular pedantry, the Church recognizes and evaluates the talents of human beings, recruiting thousands of the strongest for sacred service. Among them grows a real elite, the top of the world, and the branches, which consists of prominent warriors. They have a duty to carry out their duties, unpretentiously following the path to which faith has called them. The pride of the main character was stolen when Loundith guessed. For the church, the stench is like a small coin, lawless pawns of the great nation. The anger that fell on Leslie's face did not eliminate the shadows of doubt. They seemed to be directly against them, although the real reason could not be explained. The doors open with a rapt rush. The hero starts to scream, desperately rushing to. The revelation, which became a real warning for the king, came unsatisfied. And there was no long-awaited hope after the dark night. A tireless hero who stands as a living individual in his true life. Dear friends, that you were with us and found the time to look at this story. When asked how insecurity threatens the kingdom, the confession lulled. Isn't this kingdom affected by the endless attacks of demonic spirits? In my thoughts, she seemed to be standing, as she waved her hands untiringly and voiced out her thoughts, and her people's heavens disappeared in the fog of memory. Raptov's guess about Libra, which once flooded everyone with unmatched mastery, and then voluntarily announced its properties, having stolen from its information. The self-confidence of this young man does not exist between. He is so inveterate in his hoarse laudatory proclamations about the merits of power that telling the king does not manage to interrupt his monologue. The skin bulletin, as it was repeated, will become a symbol of your triumph. The thirst for wine in the city rises to the dream of an ideal prince. A soy glance cast at Leiledes, Mitivo suggesting to him that there is something wrong here. Having first tried to connect to Libra, I lost my sense of dignity. Why does this person so uncontrollably allow himself to be called by his name? Rodiganist said with dismay that he himself was such a great friend. Internal realities have left him in a residual state of mind. What changes can cause this long-term energy supply? When asked about knowing this guy, knowledge sounded from his lips. Since their friendship was valuable, they shared the same secret. Having chuckled at what this guy was doing here, and for what reason influencing his choice, they didn't just send him to the detention center. Libri's gaze was filled with the fire of anger. Having felt this chill in the wind, Ruyamovchki thought, what do you want? The inconspicuous young man, having glanced casually at the side of the main character, turns to the king and squawks with cool detachment, when the moment has not come, perhaps, to move on to important inquiries. The concept of proper practice is lost to Eduardo as an unknown. It turned out that an army of demons had invaded the territory of their kingdom, and the church sent its most powerful warriors there without any troops. I guess the bestiality, with encouragement, lulled itself to the clergy and advanced warriors, who were known for their prominent memories in the battle against demons. Eunuch nodded firmly, confirming his words. I affirm that having repeatedly given me blessings for help, that church will continue to do its own thing. Uncertainty seized the man, and his glance sank to the bottom. Having posed the question, what truth does this prove to be effective? Without ever feeling a strong confirmation, it is the sacred mystery of the church to create a very strong support for demonic power. The clergy were able to force their way in with her energy, but she didn't even blink the skin of the main character. The church has been given a uniquely important role in the fight against demonic forces. Washed down with wine from the city, it just goes to the church, which distributes wealth between kingdoms around the world. For the king, this is of great importance, by which the greedy queen multiplies her wealth. Having reached the place, he informs that through the support of the church, which helps the kingdoms to be rich, it is not possible to suddenly conquer all the drinks. It's hard to see your unwavering commitment to your priorities. Deadly has become a means to mow down people's lives without pity. The monarch's kingdom soon gives the church a lack of wealth. It's amazing. It's better to think twice about sacrificing such money first. The author says that resources for waging war are found not only from the king's treasury, but from other resources. Juvelo proudly declares his right to take Princess Lesnar, our true hero, who knows no doubts, into his squad. Feeling astonishment, they named the person a prince. Having played on notes of irony, the king says, why would you dare to sacrifice the princess, who will lie down with the monarch? The patronage of the church can greatly increase the good fortune and the achievements of the people. The sacred vestment of the king. Be an indestructible shield for your monarch, protecting him in any circumstances. The urge to breathe ignites a fire in the middle, and the rest of the body will never heal. The tension of silence, which has obscured them, instructs them to hand over the princess to their hands, singing the king, which in return conveys not only a long-lasting world, but where you want to go. It's safer to succumb to the caress of demons than to entrust your power to someone like this man, he reconciles. With blessings to turn to action, the hero calls on the king to look around for a while. There is no time for heat. The situation is extremely serious. With a glance, like a snarl, she became furious at the boy and tisked, and caught the whining mood that was panting among all those present. The soldiers announced that the darkness had lifted and the kingdom was calm again. Its significance on the map of the world has completely disappeared, having been spent whenever I need it. The purity of the moment gave way to the rightful parade for the honor of power. The table was bright so as to wave at the confirmation. Among the Natov, the Rozmovi expanded. They called him F. The king sings that they don't shove every time. The cold order lurks. The boy is told to get out, and even to warn the unvarnished ones not to enter into the plan of the ruler's voice. The master orders the young men to convey a message to church representatives. His kingdom is rapidly opening, and for them the finale is the last day of peace. From the first glance it became clear. The king was buried in unquenchable wrath. Liver is trying to understand that he himself has captured the demon. The minister's voice reaches the person. It sounds official, but at the same time friendly. The minister motions for him to come closer. Zdivuvanaya cries out for a man. It is important to realize that the wrongful man still kills demons. The hero is worth the invitation and does not dare to believe the wrong one. It is important to realize that a true hero stands before me. A storm of emotions has overwhelmed the enemy. Raptanov rushes forward and rises so that the main hero finds himself in the dark and chants, "That gap." Alleluia, with inviolable songliness, stands at the mercy of the hero, singing to everyone. There is no such thing as bullshit here. When it comes to the Dzvinki, then this type is a very short-lived creation, absolutely outside the realm of a healthy heart, dumb to the core. There's nothing that doesn't deserve the heroic deed, and the demon has long been destroyed under the pressure of unpaid payment. Having listened to the speaker until the last word, Noam, without a shadow of a word, was ready to strike Layla. However, the order comes through peacefully. The young girl keeps quiet, deciding not to allow the fearful one to boast about her right, sir. Perhaps everyone who was in charge became testimonies of how they bravely discovered the demons, not depriving them of every chance. The glory of this scene has not yet deprived the commander of his thoughts about the night in the name of Sizbox swore nightly, a sight that has been remembered forever. The great library of Karla sings. Under the mask of beauty, he masterfully beats the skin of the skin, who eagerly rushes into battle, while he himself calmly stands and unmovingly manages the decisive blows. At this moment, the girl suddenly screams, so that Karl will inevitably lose his place. Calling herself that pathetic girl pig, she unknowingly damaged the mysterious hero with her blow. Wonder was in his eyes. Did the stars take this ghost? That diabolist Mitevo raised doubts, calling his opponent right and hopeless. The girls are threatened with punishable death for praising the image of the hero. They cannot tolerate such foolishness. That same Suveri Virok, the thirsty soul, does not show fear of her. The white fog uncontrollably burns away everything. And from this milky haze a mysterious voice moons. Only Libra himself is sleeping. He's standing up. Gnome just stood there brilliantly. Everything went amazingly smoothly. Despite the nerd's incompetence, the hour has struck. The hour has come. Having gathered all the courage, the young man emerged from the ground and quickly rose into the sky. Trying to sing to everyone at his best, the boy insists that he has solved this problem himself. That devilish chuckles slyly and respects. Really, why waste power on such trifles? The fainting day of the Sustrich, one has to patiently check and tirelessly collapse forward. The proposal to go down sounded urgently. I really wanted to share with Ryan what was truly important. The real reason is that the monarch asked for Rui to come to him, and the girls decided to be left out and were not going to show up. The king will never know the joy of the wonders when everything is lost. How can it be? Naked on Vinyakov's air of importance, the continuation of the royal family, having already sensed an invisible anxiety. Thoughts about the girls crept into the dubious heart, swirling around. The share played with irony. The mother lives in a modest garden, and the Leslitz initiative does not know any support, so she's wasting the opportunity to calm down. It was my sacred wish to snatch her away from the troubles of the royal homeland, so that I could find the power of happiness. Let's face it, the very one whose heart sank. Under the crypts of the royal palace, in the ridges of the rare husk, tireless thoughts roar in the head. What kind of decision will become residual? But my thoughts were slowly interrupted by a sound. The trail was suddenly heading to the library, which had arrived nearby. There is a proposal to conduct a tête-à-tête with Razmov. Noam, with suspicion, respects that the hero, judging from everything, had a difficult idea. Suddenly the girl stands on the side of her guard, not willing to dare to protect him to the end. Abinion revokes his assigned duty to look after Noam. Get rid of a lot of stench straight behind the wall, straight to the entrance wall, built above the Centillion Canal. Rodiganus is widely aware that he rejects too much order and harmony. But Lieber categorically throws out any turning to the darkest guesses about the past. How, any brand, went to Yogo Rice. Unfazed by the beautiful relationship with the monarch, Libra has never met the princess before. Although her appearance may seem far from ideal, wearing it steadily is not a problem for anyone. Find out the correct reason for Lieber's unexpected behavior in his company. I had a chance to meet with a lot of masters who boasted of their talent, and many of my friends showed up in front of them. Such behavior has never happened to me. The decision became obvious. The goal of solving the problem was solved. The goal of killing did not eliminate the daily doubts, and every step of the way was straightened out against them. Thoughts are swarming in his head. How can this seemingly worthless Vignan be able to help him overcome his opponent? It's worth wondering why the main character sticks together with those who are away. So dumb, and for no one else. No more. Egoist sings that it is impossible to replace your life with space. This, in this case, will be a win for the princess. Becoming friends with her and removing the Supernicks from the royal homeland will allow him to continue with his plans. Come on, you don't have too many regular guests at your house. Such features are rare in this church. So they certainly do not deprive the pose of respect. Scratching the face, trying to seize the destruction. His praise does not stop him from belittling the hero, arguing that people like him can easily serve others. Moreover, with a sinister laugh, he adds, "No hero can show for his ability," saying that such a method is not worth the attention of others. Ghastly, prickly images were seen from Yogovust, wounding Muvlezo. A penetrating gaze was fixed on Supernikova, her Dopki, clenching her teeth, enduring a new writhing of shapely documents. Having told Ray she doesn't marvel at anyone's burning down, she immediately rushes forward to attack. With all the force he swings, releasing the blow, but the trace does not deprive him. But the lad turns out to be marred. Perekonani, having figured out the main dilemma, he hastened to call Ruala from the supernatural boaster. "Why don't you go through a full-time duty shift so that they get angry in front of their eyes?" The boy's talents are greatly supported by the blame, although he really doesn't want any special benefits. It turns out that skills can only be acquired through ceremonies in the temple. Additionally, the uniqueness of the creation is striking, which radically brings jeopardy to the defense. Liver understands that in order to learn a good opponent, he also likes to throw out a shout so that he can try the correct force. We want to convey that the lad's memory is no more than a low-grade twist, standing in his first place. For a time, Ruea's sawing gaze reveals a series of characteristics, in which skin, the point of literal protection, reaches an incredible level. The monitor displays detailed information about labor. All characteristics are displayed in the smallest detail. The truth is unexpectedly revealed. The church became famous for transmitting to its adherents the approaching memories, which have long become its recognizable sign. Nourish in order to tell Ruya the knowledge of the powerful level of mastery. And at a glance you can tell, this nutrition deprives him of everything. It is impossible to reveal its unique potential. To embrace the skills of others, and masterfully stool their power. Self-satisfaction to the limit, which he has to believe in the power of inability. No matter the strength of the enemy, the reconciliation. His unique strength gives the greatest chance of getting brutality from either two. It is impossible to speed up the power of Ruya. The docks are ordered by his ruler. For those who stood up to him, they have already realized a useful conclusion. This country was well known to them, from the hours that they conveyed to the general too from Ruya. Well, it's about the cunning of an approaching villain, and not about the heroic hero's heroic deeds. The gag presses tightly against the boy's lips, and in the wind, the moonlight sounds. If you can overcome it, you have the right to speak. Emerging with a newly infused, albeit obvious mastery, Liver rushes into the attack without fear, without any hesitation. First blow. Lieber rushes away with a fury, a mute cowlick while still barking in the wind, stand up. It spreads tirelessly in the wind, rapidly turning over and veering foggy wings. Having confirmed Libera, check everything with your own hand to recheck the veracity of the words. Think about what this world really is. There is a feeling that in addition to the developed muscles and phenomenal strength, he has a truly colossal mind. Step by step around Ria Hitorok, an inseparable unity emerged that united all parts of its essence. The enemies have reduced him to the depths of his soul. The overbearing nature of this idea will drown him in reality. Apparently there are very little prospects, as if his physical capabilities have changed, as if in Volodya's minds. She streams her dreams at the same time. Unfortunately, such talent is not given to me. Enlightenment was upon him, although everything seemed completely different. An invisible force insistently tries to bring, but to recognize the truth for someone else, an unprofitable task. An achievement that fills the heart of the main character with true pride. Wrap up the bed of the ulcer. The hour has come for this ASAP, the beloved beast, which will already be engaged. Tsikavilo, who is Asa the word about? He is destined to bring a powerful talent from the victim, or to take away the memory of another person forever. Such a transformation is a very complex operation and is only allowed once in a lifetime. Our plans are to relinquish control over the life of the main character, which is really a relief. And it's incredibly sultry. It is time to reach the goal of achieving the most powerful mystery, about which the fate of the holy day fell upon my soul. In front of Roya, there is access to an unbreakable force, which has been holding out for all this time, and may have come back. Your heart has a great need for happiness. That's what you need. Stretch, and the muscle of the stomach awakens. Deprivation is alive and manifesting itself in all its glory. There is a feeling of hostility that nothing was really lost. Everything was lost as it was. A bitter pity squeezes my heart, because now I realize the true value of this person. Now everything is focused on one goal, to choose a life from this young man. Homonyak's depravity crosses the line, and there's no denying what's going on. Even as the main character lightly suggests, it's time to look at your characteristics. The axis and the open head of Libor's rice. However, please note that one key component is missing. Having lost control over emotions, I hope to be surprised when empty, dark, or if everything has become empty. The topic of compensation for a damaged wall is being raised. Ryu, I'm dying of anxiety, I'm drinking from the restlessness, and I really need to pay the extra money, Leonardo commented with a chuckle. The self-satisfied fool, who wrote so much with his own thoughts, ended up with nothing. The defeat became his bitter science. A lighter feeling passed through Rodiganist's soul. The knowledge that Libra himself had claimed this share for himself, and did not allow him to take the mountain. Having quickly rushed to her side, Ryu herself became the initiator of the matter. Carol firmly stated this, standing up for the main character, who would be protected from confusion. Libra ends up with a mocking cry, the ultimate idiot, which is not expected in the world of power, a guess about those who sent them home. Having quickly stolen from the information of the main character. Prote lost the mystery of how this couple was able to figure everything out in plain sight. Emmy told me with pleasure. At the same time, Noah's eyes were filled with everything that was happening, and they wanted to keep an eye on the steps from the stand. A girl's heart works like this. There are no such common blames. Evelyn's confession flared up. When the moment of revelation came, everything became clearer. Without any deep emotions or cunning, the girl elaborated in detail the transition for the king, whom she characterized as a diligently hardened old man with a seemingly imperious importance, at whom she vociferously said, "They do their best to serve his interests every day." The lament not to call him shove him old sounded in his voice. This wicked girl's work was punished by her. Whenever we talk about self-defense, when there is a lot of evidence for close people, the church always emphasizes respect for this nuance, King said with respect. The stench began to grow, gradually distinguishing outsiders and bypassing others. It turns out that there is no need for alarm. The enemies will dare to shout, and the main character will immediately stumble on the most baked grounds. Insanely, every radical action is not included in his plan, especially if there is a suspicion that they will not serve to disgrace his name. It is important not to mention anything else. This person has definitely drunk herself in the center of their gaze. He doesn't show any desire to rub elbows with the church, so he just tries to paint the relationship with the church. The kingdom will do its best to support him, and the monarch will do everything possible to demonstrate his deep commitment. It nourishes and it collapses without pure kindness, and the king without a wagon solidifies it. A thought crept in. There might be deeper reasons behind these words. As the man began to sing, he has no special interest here. As if by not intruding on anyone and allowing the images at the address of Lound out of Sanda to escape further, without stopping the blow, which would call until the end of the day. Once we first doused ourselves with water, having recognized the winter season, it seemed like we were already going to be surprised. The king speaks out. Once you are deprived of the most basic benefits, you will no longer be able to steal your fortune. Without catching the sense, for some unknown reason, a mysterious smile appeared on the devil's lips. With even greater perseverance, the king suddenly rushes to Ruea, asking him to become part of the nobility of his kingdom. This man did not show a greedy desire to agree with the royal proposal, so Raya is afraid to ask for a bailout. Not without irony in the voice, I say, there is no need to boast. In times of insecurity, the only thing that its owners can procure is to wipe the church off the face of the earth. How much respect screamed at the new husband. The Paraconans proudly declared to themselves that there was no one on the entire planet who could equal their strength. Stretching her hand forward, the girl chanted about her guilt. She calmly shared that her life stretches across centuries, far beyond the boundaries of basic human life. All this priceless wealth has generously enriched her with amazing wisdom, which is why brilliant ideas are constantly popping up in my head. In essence, it's fun if you take an oath of allegiance to God's accusations and officially become your friends. It is said that the main mission of the church is to organize a wedding for the princess and guarantee that the person will join the royal family. All these plans are possible. They are not bound by either words or right. It seems that everyone in this world has been given the chance to share their share with just one person for the rest of their lives. This is the rule. Enlisting the support of the kingdom is the only way to defeat the attacks of the church. More than the one who is recognized and supported by the people, worthy of being named a prince. The excess light will drown in its harmony, and for the main character, non-conflict is not just a principle, but a way of life. For the new world, life is always a priority, and with such a choice you can avoid any worries and inconveniences. All things considered, everyone has no problem with reaching the aristocratic top. Aristocrats are much more than just blood ties to the monarch. The buried Viguks of Mitevo rushed by in a rush. The brilliant idea of Abinion created a real furor, immediately captivating everyone's gaze. For the sake of understanding that the current pace can be maintained, the boys will soon be ahead. It became sad that the main character was shaking so effortlessly to turn around to review the story. Improved decisions will be transferred to others, encroaching on the first glance with a simple path. Prode, without the initial planner to reach the desired result, it is extremely difficult. We can't get rid of our friends, what is true in Ria's words. Let's face it, the love appears as a union of two hearts to unite their shares to create a happy tomorrow, the main character sings. Abinion, without bothering with his response, asked, "Why don't you think that you deserve less for such an ideal?" Avalisk comes up to Rui, quietly explaining that it is not possible to take this word literally. The face in his eyes is a charming, accepting, and incredibly valuable person. Without any fault, he does not show his life. In fact, the skin will get its sweetness, dreaming about whores. However, if chaos is not allowed, lightly important decisions will not be fun. The king opens his heart, admitting, he is most interested in learning how his little one will share with the one whom she takes. They feel an inordinate amount of pain, the veins fill them. Thoughts settled on one thing. Without Rulix about the love of the year and death. The heart is filled with joy at the fact that it has stumbled in front of the king himself. And even his true friend is at fault, where boundless love lies between the dead. The truth is that it is not immediately clear on the surface. One telephone ringing Leselci Matevo put everything in its place. And she really respected. They've already been dreaming about fun, if it's not decided who will become your couple on this holy day. The brilliant hero crossed the threshold of his donkey. On the face of the girl there was a bloom of color, a dorky grin. Such was the joy of the squirrel with him. I emphasize that Mr. Ria, having reported the supreme efforts of this battle, and since he does not cry out for a long time, he definitely should not be deprived of his hospitable curses without respect. Without further ado, the lads are entrusted with finding out all the possible information about. A number of LEDs on the screen clearly highlight the main details, perfectly emphasizing the key figures. The image of the heart serves as an indisputable confirmation of the broad emotions of a person. It is asked with great precision. At what moment did the Kaneni for you begin in her heart? Parakananist panics and thoughts. Everything that happened on the battlefield simply could not be lost without inheritance. Moreover, the decisive blow, which the boy told the crook, who dared to laugh at Lesleta, is likely to ignite a spark of feelings, which is more than enough to set the hearts of the Khans on fire. It's amazing how difficult it is to share the details of your conversation with your teacher, revealing all the nuances of the recent lesson. The unsatisfied woman sank as soon as her father went straight to his bottom with this food. The statement uttered, the king planned to transfer her under the guardianship of the church. Having firmly sealed the proto-father, nothing like this will ever happen. He reinforced his position more than once, declaring without any hesitation, don't get lost with him no matter what the circumstances. And this time the church stands aside, until nothing envelops everything. The father's decision to see his daughter marry an old acquaintance was voiced decidedly. Having dared to sing against the grain, Lisleda goes wild with wide groans. She calms down and does not become agitated. Her heart has long ago acquired the path to give life to the servant Shibora with unfailing courage. The increasing tension in the king's voice sounded like a ghost, Tutskat, and I would not hesitate to find out who she herself claims to be as a model. Narashti realized that she was really named a woman. With an unwelcome understanding, it was expected that Rua would lose order forever, the boy responded to the ceremony. The tired girl still didn't catch the sense of her remaining words. Everything inside became a mystery. Having risen to Ruya, with a smile it is clear that the girl really lost her head in the mess. After these rivers from Rozmov, cross the Raptovo channel at the non-parid Bachavan riverbed. It's a pity that the Vibachenya appears, but the Vikanat's wickedness appears to be impossible. I emphasize, the point is not in the young man himself, but in front of her is a true hero. If fate had given such a man, the girl would have known true happiness. Turning to the boy and the girl, reluctantly saying, Rui has already been named, and it is not at all to claim the place. With flowing compliments the girl confesses, her heart is almost burning for Mr. Worm. It is clear that only one thing is important to her. Or Volodar has deprived her of herself. Mr. Rai's very perseverance brought them here, so feeding you is the nourishment of honor. The girl is not going to see him on his way to happiness. The final slide emphasizes, the axis of this place has now become its reality. There may be other guises besides simple release. Rizar clearly explains to the girls, taking someone else for yourself is not her choice. It is confirmed that rice like rice has power over strong and powerful characteristics. To confirm your words, point the imperious butt. Having said that, he takes 4 squads, and, from the skin of them, has already given birth to a child. And the king, it seems, has not yet dared to make his choice. Without a shadow, the car is rightly entrusted to the people of Rui, whose powers no one doubts. Nowadays, the young Miss Noma is losing her position of suspicion, and even her talent can bear incredible fruit and influence those she knows. It shows that the true sign of a true lord is the presence of rich squads, and Vidmova, therefore, preferably appears to be a true marvel. When asked about those who are ready to sacrifice the happiness of power for the sake of the good fortune of the state and the satisfaction of this love, the main character thoughtfully gazed at him from his companion. There is no doubt, Vidmova equates him to the very devil, as she herself appears in the eyes of the people. Rua senses that the choice has long been made to replace him. Uncomfortably, the whole company fell asleep in charge. The arms became indestructible, and the voice sounded chanting, this lad has been lying for a long time. There is hope that Ria will continue to bring the bark of this land, and will continue to hold the honor of the great locality sacred. He sings to everyone that the king is right. Averliss's heart has not been filled with such light, unturbulent joy for a long time. 2 friends now share his share. All the people of the kingdom, having sensed the news about the most amazing battle, strongly believed in the appearance of a true hero. But after the glory was buried, the story turned out to be one more episode of the endless benefits, and his everyday life was deprived of relief. On the side of someone else's sowing there was a dark sign, Rua, and here nearby there was a moonlight of a characteristic Sheridine. Although the crooked Yaku's river, the pawns are about to collapse on the road. One of their comrades said that he himself was violating the news. However, the children of the king himself stepped up to the palace again. Lesled's brothers and sisters turned to go home. What does the future have in store for us? The look of the Kovzav on the squad from the formations, and even now it gave an advantage to the search for originality, masterfully bypassing everyday styles. Jaja knew no peace in her life, even though her life was spent in painstaking training and preparation before the official parade. In the middle of nowhere, there is a smoldering food in the heart. What would make her an ideal team for such a supernatural creature? Without a shadow of doubt, the main character disappears. I don't understand the significance of what the king handed over to us. I ask you to taste the cherry herb, renew your strength in a quiet bath, and indulge in love. The year of glory of the past is marked for the new one within the walls of the laboratory, where I will entrust the future. Cheryl's squad settled here quite recently, infused with a true passion for alchemy. Over the course of an hour, Nuam turned one of the chambers into a secret laboratory, where she experimented. Without stopping, she mixed folds and guessed new formulas. All wines are produced by the stingy guild of craftsmen, without depriving competitors of every chance. The very fact of obligatory presence is irrefutable proof of the fact that it is important. The first prince of the Centralian kingdom, Samantao, appears on the stage. With particular urgency, the prince turns to the young man, trying to find out what is effective in that very special way. With a subtle gesture, Abela Diakuya Ru, broadly signifying his services to all the princesses. Another Prince Rauselch, with confidence in his future crown, encourages the young man with satisfaction, confident that he will never spoil his loyalty to his ruler. The prisoners were seriously surprised and caught the skinward, strenuously striding behind the floors. Zemanto Perekanani. The negotiations of the future ruler deprive the hour of ordinary people. It looks like the share has already been decided. The throne will definitely go to the eldest son of King Leon. The servant insists, since the young man wants to take the oath of allegiance, he will go after her. Tim Ruga has absolutely no idea what is really going on. The rebirth of the prince is not surprising. In the battle for the throne, the human status is of key importance, so the right of the successor may inevitably lie with the eldest son. The princess speaks out. Her kingdom has already had rulers reign more than once, so the throne should go to the most knowledgeable and wisest. The man and Roselle have already lost their place. From the lips of the squad came the revelation. All three of them are the true descendants of King Centakilian. Each of them has the right to the throne. However, it meant that only one of them was destined to become a leader in the future dynasty. Having raised the topic further, Antoton chuckled as to why he was turbulent to the client, since their discussion turned around the most effective ways to surveil the body. The noble blood of your father flows through your veins. This is an unchangeable part of you. First of all, it appears that more has been reported. Never mind. The man tisked with an ironic laugh, saying that it would be effective to endlessly magnify her royal title. The truth is untouched. Half of this blood which flows rapidly through her veins belongs to a restless woman who does not care, which is true. So a child who is different from a dog cannot change into someone else. He will lose the dog. Ladsa grows her confession from her knowledge. Her father was a man of low stature, and from early life, the girl's lot fell to images of distrust. In such circumstances, having accepted the title of leader with honor, Ladsa is determined to devote all her strength to the service of the fatherland, striving to earn it in honor and bring power to the government. The brother reconfigures what he had in mind, and again, the girl tirelessly fights for the power of life. Like a faithful, clever dog, who is again bringing his selfishness to the surface, he seems to be powerless. There is such a wide-ranging people who have played an important role in their lot. The very same meeting Rue decidedly approached the new one, and on its face the meeting began to glow with heated anger. The first prince's miraculous hands screamed at him and raised him high above him. With the groans about the escape, Ando, furious to the next, trusts in the understanding. With the generosity in her voice, the girl converted the prince. The true value of a person is not in the nobility of the family, but in the uniqueness of the soul. Even if you don't care or reduce everyone to simple equivalents, it's all one thing to take away their uniqueness from people. Turning to the guards with a cry for the main character, the prince, having betrayed the unbreakable will of the king, who had intruded and screwed up the plan. The answer is a constant. The true illness was like the disease itself, so what is the king's wish for forgiveness? The delegate from the kingdom announced the agreed-upon meal plan for the hour, desperately brutalizing those present. This immediately entails mortal punishment for this man, and even after him, the long-standing wrongdoing of the entire royal homeland. The explanation has begun. Rua is the undefeated hero of the kingdom. Yakbi protagonist. Without defeating the demons, the land disappeared from the face of the earth. I didn't have any thoughts about the passion. Nanton is boiling with the determination to end this whole thing, which is worth prior to the registration of these Vovkulaks, hoping to know in a sing-song manner that Ruya will lose her given table without any worries, as Dee brought it to her. Having entrusted him with freedom to choose actions, King stressed, in advance, They will be deprived of truly serious assignments if they still need to vacate. The son's Raptovo voice cuts off Rozmova, and without hesitation, he takes the initiative, and it's common to share stories from his life. From the lips of the king's daughter came a rich tribute. There will never be a loss of duty, and no more polishing of yourself. He rages wildly to his squad. What were the moments when the stinks came out of sight? The great ruler of the kingdom may have already decided to direct his interests to the throne. In a child, such behavior appears completely unpleasant. If they didn't get over it, their friend would find a way out of the situation. They themselves today bear the title of future kings, in addition to their children, who are not entitled to this title. Aldous Sun's gaze burned with songfulness when he decided to clarify. The very rare talents, the wealth of knowledge, and the painstaking training deservedly be respected as the most suitable candidate for the throne. However, such glory, from his words, was for him a burden to the city. With bitter irony, he spoke to his son's documents, which were directly opposed to the unjust order of the world, mockingly mocking them. Nevgomovna's Tsikavost kept up with the search for the reasons for their reversal. The bolder son proudly calls this region its fatherland. The daughter, with the warmth in her voice, recognizes that she herself has come to the world here and spent her childhood, and it is widely known, whose heart should be devoted to this earth entirely and completely. What was the reason for them to leave her and get out so quickly? Donka began to feel it. According to the retellings, everything began under the influence of demonic and evil forces. Merciless in their onslaught, the stench overwhelmed everyone who had become a barrier, leaving them completely unaware of the reasons for such ferocity. Fighting against this threat that hung over the region in the sight of demons, they stopped everything from believing in the impending catastrophe. It's winter, don't wander, and also deprive you of the land. But no matter what, the mother's housework still lies with them. As if one day of life had brought them back to the village wall, fate could have given them some kindness and peace. For some villages, their days were ending until news of the triumph in the battle against the demons came. Never mind what happened in reality. Importance and recklessness, or the fear of turning around after everything that had been experienced, did not take away the constant doubts from her courage. The king himself decided to understand the correct reason why the king decided to make such an ingenious choice. Malecha generously asked for training from his. In the deep end of the princess, the hope is that the scum of the kingdom will not be lost alive. The dark hope is still preserved, until at least one descendant of the royal blood is not extinguished. Enough of a single member of the dynasty, and from the ruins, burned and seeded with demons, life began to shine again, and the land began to be renewed. Without hesitation, she got along, and even accepted her share of the status of the one who sacrificed her native land for the salvation of all the people, so as not to darken her name with destruction. To the best of our knowledge, the king's daughter found the best way out of a difficult situation. This is a true manifestation of deep good. You will not punish the celebrants of the warriors with death. It looks like this, no matter how small it is, and he's lost quite a bit of his recovery while he's trying to recover. Another hope burns in his heart, another child, and no one can compare with his kindness and strength of spirit. Her mother's extreme behavior did not deprive her of the desperate chance to make it to the list of contenders for the throne. But the situation completely changed when the king praised the decision in an amazing way, by adding titles to all the other descendants of the kingdom. Rapto's energy flowed around, and the girl turned around at the onset of the meeting. The witch's words sounded like knowledge. All of her life was spent as a leader, and not as a volunteer. So the mysticism of ruling the country became a mystery to her. She sings that she created this Matevo because she is endowed with the honorable title of a lyricist. This title may not be compared to the royal one. It serves as a basis for further atrocities. Maleka angrily bursts out, "Rui, tell me, what are you thinking about?" Let me know that I'm going to start trying to be happy with my boyfriend. It turns out that Mr. Raya also did not become an exception to this rule. His special choice, like until the decision of the king himself, turned into a low, non-transferable approach. The novelty shook them to the depths of their souls. It was important to realize that their sister had become the squad of a hero who had always been punished by the country. Should Lesleds be given the opportunity to take the royal throne, which would automatically open the way for Rhea to become the new ruler. Even the main hero, who has now become the king's son-in-law, has all the reasons for investing in the crown. And the rapture of his thoughts uncontrollably ends. The contemptuous look of the first prince glares at Lesleds. God-loving. You were born into the world from a simple homeland. And now you are planning to fool everyone and take the throne? The daughter's prayer continued to her father's. Come to your senses, for Simnanto, who quenches the strength of both of his ancestors, does not stand on the side of the great pious empire. Dosi did not get around to learning this lesson. Aware of the unknown fact that among aristocrats it is not customary to lightly call their brothers-in-arms stupid, they continue to work one favor after another. From now on, we are trying to avoid discussions about kings. And of course, rulers would never have allowed such familiarity. The lunar affirmation, the fall of other royal dynasties flows in the blood of children. It turns out that the stench is too unrecognizable, because their nobility belongs half to foreign clans. The behavior of the boys only confirmed my suspicions. The wrath buried the ears, except the least of them. Allow me to tell you a few words. Give yourself the opportunity to rinse out some of the drainage, even if the water is still under strain. The king, with joyful song, voiced his rightness, without leaving room for doubts, and chanted with his ears. The lamb will be faithful to you right up to the last meeting. The unknown discovery stunned Bella and Zimnanto, and even those who fell asleep in their hands shocked them to the core. The prince admitted with a wry smile. Neither one had a chance to become a loser. The status of the other meant everything right from the start. The boys found it wrong. In childhood, we have believed, there are no people for anything more. But it is not a simple human lot. For those who do not dare to go through the main testing, one more chance has been given. A spare one, just when it is necessary to get out of the gloomy dungeon. Success in this world is due to the fact that those who are blessed with significant DI, they tell you that there is no hard scar on the boy's body, no badge or a reminder of long-standing wounds. Rhea begins a conversation on this topic with her youngest son, and the king's son-in-law stands on the side of the boy, whom the whole world knows about. The other prince sings in a stormy tone, like, "It's impossible." The man Leslets, who was voted the first killer due to his talents and merits, does not have the necessary skills for his work. The fame of Ruya spread far beyond the borders of the region, and with his own efforts he defeated the greedy demon and gained a secret identity. Pride overflows in his heart, with the knowledge that he has tied the holy bonds of love with the Lord Jesus. Looks at those who are talking to the other prince, Ruyapana. In this world, the real value of life is deprived of knowledge. The stench itself is given indiscriminately. The one who has masterfully mastered a skilled craft effortlessly climbs the path for herself to the greatest heights. It is not enough to simply sit on the royal throne, unless the one who, having collected a powerful arsenal from himself, can lay claim to it. The siege in the soul of the main character is cried out by those who, having great power over morality, do not shy away from saying judgmental words, hiding behind good intentions. As for the true motivation of his opponents, I cannot see through the curtain. Such a decision makes it clear. It is important for us to carefully support those who are important, so as not to be afraid of risk. The mystery of her words and dossier does not give Ruria peace of mind. The real world becomes a mystery to her. The question sounded knowingly. To what rank will you serve among pranksters? At the end of the day, the streamer and Crisian heard a replica. D. Royal. Few people tisked. For whatever reason, the Guild of Benefits hung the grapes of rue on the table modestly. The new royal decree may appear suddenly, and the youngest of the blue forces. You won't be able to do anything right away. Mitivo comes sensibly. The proposition of truth is miracle, and even the execution of one's business will easily obtain for us the honorable calling. The reconciliation of the ruler is inaccessible to Rose. Imminently the rank of the Lord will be in our hands. Be careful. And food comes before Rua. Why do I really need to move the powerful Rua? The thirst for benefits burns in his heart. There is no way to climb the ratings. Ruya sings, "Give strength, speed up every chance, or you will achieve advancement. Thank you very much for those who remain with us." This means that following the words of the Spivrozmovnik is a great pleasure and a masterful disguise of deception. For this purpose it was transformed into the correct test. The ability to make friends with Leslitson will now be unlocked after reaching the top rank. Another time, the girl will be inspired to take the crown. This unsatisfactory mind gave the children an additional hour for official inquiries. We can play with both of these situations. The charm of Russell's production did not deprive him of the excitement. The constant words of encouragement warmed the soul. At the same time, success was popularized. As soon as you can see from the successor to the throne, the good-naturedness of the meeting will be replaced by the pranks of anger. and the mind will stumble under the control of uncontrollable emotions. He notes with a smile. It's really stupid, because my thoughts will soon turn to similar trifles again. Already in the morning, friends again gathered in the hall of the Adventurers Guild. Ruya stated that the time had come for her to rise to the rank of accomplished adventurers. I can overcome severe anger with a little clarity. Let's face it, the possibility of capturing moments of the glorious 20 seconds at once from Arankin was especially breathtaking. Before that, the thought about the possible whore from Leslie was even more praised, giving every additional sense. Unbreakable faith in the betrothed encourages the girl to formulate plans for the future fun. The voice of Ambassador Pregod loudly announces the promotion of the main character to rank B, as a rapturous voice of quack permeates the silence. The royal palace ordered extreme bestiality with the order to extinguish the demons, and the Council of Goods willingly supported this initiative, praising the decision to advance its significance. After winning the title of warrior of rank B, Chan was given the task of managing the lives of 200 soldiers. Spantalichania, Tsikavitcha, Chivjali really minuted the traditional way of advancing the rank and simply recut it to a new level, and even make it possible to stick forward with extremely low folding orders and the undeniable perfection of power skills. The master's straining voice begs the inhabitants, "Who is to blame for the fact that my wealth is reaching the heavens? The gods cannot bear such a mysticism against the guilt of demons." By the way, one more volume is extracted from the heat. Ruya rudely asks for a drink. The food matures on its own. Why is the medical school limited to this rank, since it categorically does not stand up? Sered Bararov of rank S will not find anyone who would be able to self-thrust against the influx of demonic troops. According to Wandite, all the decisions are being taken by the children in the city, from the whole city. I have all the beer I can get. Feeling that the injustice is overwhelming, the tabletops are making a crazy call to destroy the entire council. From the point of view of the main character, the entire emotional sleep of the newly arrived, against the sticks of the word, it is indiscriminate to bent and fight with him. Reaching a senior rank is already a great victory, but the grandiose feats on the image of Vyre's succession, which allows you to win the level of S, stand especially at a completely different angle. In order to properly grasp all the guilt of this name, various assessment systems were installed to accurately assess the true potential of the skin candidate. Moreover, the exam, which is carried out once every few years, guarantees the most thorough testing of all key skills. It takes an hour to find out what the applicants... It was a lot of fun to know about the date of the upcoming sleepover. There is something new to share. The start of testing is already scheduled for the month of May. Or more precisely, the hour has lost just 5 days. Possibilities slipped from their hands, and a new chance had fallen within just 2 or 3 years. The desperate hope of sleeping again was not lost. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the hero understands. Failure is not allowed, and the exam may be given the first time. Thoughts about the possible complexity of this experiment do not give peace, and it also complicates all those who completed this test itself. The hostile innocence of the one married to the wide turbo. This girl immediately sank into the soul. At the same time, the boy is bravely following the benefits, revealing new sides of the moisture and revealing the potential no worse than that. The mystique of alchemy did not fall casually. Talent and determination cannot be counted in anyone. I hope to be amazed at the young men, sized as a result of a new recommendation sheet based on government precautions. In the fire of this place, there was no chance of losing the unmarked one. The knowledge that the easy way revealed more than a little to the fact that the guild is held by the girl herself does not deprive Rui. The heart is filled with gratitude for the warm welcome and the deliciousness of the food, and the words lunate widely. Having reached the guild master, the girl confessed, she was impatient to see her return today. Vaughn repeatedly called out the command not to hesitate and to climb higher peaks, revealing unknowns and wondrous worlds before her. Varto points out that the young man's successes are truly impressive. He is progressing rapidly. I take on all the organizational work on myself. The boys are deprived of simply showing up at the right-hand collection point. It is a little firm. Everything is constantly changing. Once upon a time we are leading to the kingdom of Rubrum. Vija's memory is overwhelming, and she's trying hard to guess where she felt the name before. With the right fervor in their hearts, the girls are already prepared to rush forward. Having completed your plan, you are ready to prepare for the next stage of progress. Only a few days passed before the price of their decision led them to the kingdom of Rui. The warm climate gives the kingdom a special charm and serves to secure its rapid development. The heart of the power lies at the ports of coastal places, where vital maritime trade renews the gammonism of the merchants and guarantees constant prosperity. The deep blue of the innocent sea will captivate the eye, giving a softening to the skin who admires its vastness. Happiness renews the soul. A previously unknown sight appears before your eyes. First in life, Rhea stumbled upon the boundless sea, and to this day there is the smell of unknown smells, freshness and darkness. With the appearance of a Binyan Rui, there is a feeling of hostility, because there is a healthy spirit in front of you, which will forcefully call forth the ruinous elements that will wipe out tens of thousands of human lives from the face of the earth. And in the midst of the shadows of the city's troubles, other same truths are emerging. However, they are not safe and unforgivable. It's funny how the devil encourages hundreds of girls with magical perfumes. At this point, the young witch smiles mysteriously. As a matter of fact, close forces will always be deprived of orders from her, of a similar nature. Dekto, with an incomprehensible urge, rushes headlong into the chaos of standing, protracted in the struggle of the skin, who gets drunk in order. It's hard to guess that there was a lot of trouble in the government, and the boy was impatient to catch the chance to become her friend. Conversions, that without the authority of the ring, such speeches are deprived of impossibility. In fact, it is now suddenly necessary to collect a new collection of other materials. And even a skin change on the edge will annul all previously achieved accomplishments. But the way back was cut off. There was no longer any choice. The secret of the boy's success is no longer a mystery for him, but now everything is different. The boss is hanging by a thread, and the smallest mercy can be very expensive. The news about the fact that there is a young girl in the guild of the Centracilian kingdom immediately awakens the bestiality in someone. In his words, there is an ignoramus, and even in someone else's eyes, a fresh newbie. Images directly on oneself are received with an inviolable wind, which then streams out of anger when lowly words fly from the backline. Numerical victories in the Fatherland era gave him the name of Ra. They told about his atrocity without embellishment, but in the most basic words, the greatness of unparalleled talents was conveyed. It is clear that the boy has fabricated an official document and is now facing imprisonment. The weeping bastard is particularly concerned about how harshly the evildoers are punished here, and is considering taking responsibility for this incredibly absurd document and boldly speaking out against the guild leader himself. He pours his will on the man, effortlessly extracting himself from the new extensive violence. Without disrupting the subtle harmony of the moment, the boy skillfully sings his true intentions. The girl carefully shares the news. She is going to put another sleep on Aranka. As if the person had carefully looked at the documents, it would have immediately become clear that he was paying his utmost respect to himself. The undeniable truth was revealed. There was little girl who could compare with the legendary master of alchemy. Their potential was assessed on the highest level, SSS. Without any supplies, this choice became obvious, so the preparation of everything necessary for the test began already in the near future. Ryasana has a lot of life, but for him there is no need at all. Apart from the appearance, the elimination of any frivolities, the outward appearance was eliminated, which made Rio, with wonder about what he himself was doing. Official procedures are already starting. If the reputation, which brings about the formation of the integrity of the certified professionals, blossomed even during the exam, for the performance of which itself is not reliable, then, unable to recognize the presence of the legendary forces, they did not suspect that standing before him was the one whose personality would soon become famous in the chronicles of this world. Absolutely, it moves all boundaries in this way. The streets, teeming with fearful monsters, obscured them in front of the hero. It's good that Ruyus dares to go out of his way against them, so as not to lose his doubts about anyone. The dawn has come. Doubts tear apart the soul. Such things are created between powerful possibilities. Primary success may open your eyes to the depths of the damp reality. Great joy burned in the soul, because these words first lulled into the eyes of the man himself. These familiar words have mooned here more than once for Rhea. My heart aches, and I regret, so close that she gave a year to this house. Now all the smells have been cleared to bring to that unreasonable monster. What are they doing? We are deeply sorry for the girl's voice, asking for relief, and trying to convey that the situation was difficult for her to make a difficult decision. Laurel reconfigures, which is entirely true, even giving her life in the first place. But at the same time, Due to the length of time it took, Rui did not reach her heart, and the drop of what she deserved has not yet been given. Lost in thought, the young man begins to wonder. Was it not destined for Mojus to suddenly settle down in new, yet unknown camps, which could lead to a tragic death in agony? You are not deprived of food. What kind of inheritance will you enjoy? When he feels relieved, he grieves. The threat to the man's life has passed. Just a few miles away, the endless plain of the kingdom of Rubrum appeared before one's eyes. A wide expanse of incredible grandeur, stretching all the way to the very edge. This is an ideal place for great battles, which has long ago achieved great glory. In an inveterate tone, she encourages, "Don't stream, share what you think." It crashes quickly through them. Get ready. Relaxation renews the soul. A hot super river rose between them, while the ice floated on top of a wonderful shape, most likely created by cunning spells. Everything that comes to light is deprived of its complete mystery. The enchanting aroma gently lingers on the ears, soothing and carrying into the dark abyss of the sea depths. In other words, everything is on its own. Rodiganist's awareness of the fact that the antidote is on the side of the skin prompts him to prepare for duels with the skin's enemy. One of the young men asks, how many people can be enchanted by this unexpected technique? A Binyan light burst out with respect, as a group of motorized creatures quickly appeared between them. Semi-human beings, which seemed to have lost their form, spread out into a chimeric mucous membrane. The demons seem to clearly understand the dead essence that lurks in the middle of this yerbi of the servants of the darkness. Joden Chaklin, Popri Zusila, can't get enough of the necessary zil. Ruga's voice is moving around, alarmingly evoking silence. So how much of this is real here? Too sharp, like a blade. Abinian replicas echoed in the wind. The skin of them is a precise, silent arrow that does not miss its target. Without a hint of hesitation, the hero sings to those present. There is no reason to flaunt, and even this young man can beat any enemy. They were all picked at once for a reason. They face an imperious meta. The loss of one of them could result in a major disaster for the place. Abinian emphatically declares such a pardon cannot be allowed. It turns out that life has brought new experiences to life, and this place, which has become a symbol of humiliation for him, deserves further recognition. Let me go. Let me get out of my life forever, the hero says emphatically. Having raised doubts, he rushes at the speedy monsters, like swift heads flying towards him from. With Mitt's hand, we rightly grabbed our hands, creating a small virus that mercilessly erased an entire month of sleep. The curse of Zradnitsa has already cast its dark shadow on Rich. There was no loss of protein from the wound, and there was no trace of it. Everything disappeared without turning. The Fox Wildmaster clucked happily. What happened here and why so many months have passed? Resolutely, the enduring body of the miracle unreasonably attacked the enemy Discovery, in the room, having visited the one whom they had not found here at all. The elusive conductor easily navigates those insurance companies that rely on rare goods. What did you do with the unique wealth of your native place? In what way has all this become possible? And what is the special mystery of this incomprehensible complexity hidden here? I affirm, the weight of responsibility lies not on anyone, but entirely on the person himself, because the very power of doubtful marriage believed that they had pushed him to this point. A slight smile flashed through his mouth, and it sounded. Those were the words that were rejected right off the cob. It was clear that Noah had already gathered materials from 5,000 monsters from Abinion and was joining forces with the local guild of craftsmen. She entrusted all the important matters to them herself, without taking on the task alone. A few days were lost before the important day. What kind of activity could save an hour during this period of recovery? Trying to figure out what they were going to eat in the past doesn't leave her thinking. However, one could not look at her and wonder, since everyone showed respect for her. From the playlist it becomes reasonable. The boys and girls have a wistful look. All this, undoubtedly, is a trace of the influx of a monster. Carefully inhaling the air, the boy slowly smells the aromas of their bodies, until the comrades calmly take their place, not suspecting anything wonderful. It is certain that the sound alone has long erased all foreign odors for this company. Passers-by, smelling the unbearable smell of currants, marveled in astonishment. Is this terrible smell? That time Rua himself reconsidered. He undoubtedly became devilish, my friend, as a source of irritating stench. The solution is literally before us. In all its beauty stands the luxurious seaside resort of the Kingdom of Ru, our expensive pearl on the birch tree. Having spent their childhood far from the seashores, they never realized how greedy they could be before being overwhelmed by the salty pine. This young man's outfit is a swimsuit, especially created for a non-turbo vacation. Having organized the swimming trunks and decisions of determination, the young man ruined himself, looking at the empty and excessive territory, wondering where all the people had gone. Excused for delay, he hastily explains the reason for his delay. Self-consciously revealing a new swimsuit in front of Nelman, the girl admires her choice. Quite surprised at her, he admits that in front of him there is nothing more than simple whiteness. With a laugh, he says, "There's no way to relive your youth. Our non-turbo girl, first of all, will be torn from the whore of life." The sorority was scoured by Noam, but the seller reconfigured them, which is about a whole cross-sea swimmer, singing at the end of everyday life of the purchase. "I'm glad to see you, but now I've realized that all the other girls have also put on their swimsuits," declares the need to unravel the secrets of her soul, even though this girl worked selflessly. Now his gaze is closed until another post. The new swimsuit became not just a purchase for her, but a serious test. She so badly wanted to be worthy of Rue, and to look like her in this way of being buried. The Rotagonist says, "It's important for me to know what's going on with you, as it's amazing how much you can earn with your invisible part." The depravity is visible in the look, but still the words fly out wide. Her body itself was wrapped in a swimsuit made of a chimeric substance, spiritual, material ectoplasm, which shimmered and masterfully evolved in its new look. In addition, she had a unique device that allowed her to change the shape of the choice herself, if such a need arose. He insistently declares, "If you want Rue so desperately, it will be important for him to stand in front of you. But if you continue to behave and play in the same way, the consequences may turn out to be completely different from what you are expecting." With the endless golden shore looming behind them, the girls firmly decided, by saving it, they would be given an unforgettable day, new blessings and joy. On the shore where the main character was taken, Rosemov's gum was sharpened about how to turn this day into a useful one that will be remembered forever. The storm burned through his voice. "Didn't they just come here to rest? The exam is already just around the corner, and you can add more work if you want." The non-turbocharged hour on the warm beach was remembered especially vividly by him. The skin quilt gave a boost to the malt. The day will begin at the Central Arena, the famous place created by royal decree. People called it military paradise. Budivlia became the glory of the Yuletide ceremonies that ruled the heart of the kingdom of Rubrim. As the hours passed, the battles baked in and brought not only victory, but also food for the long haul. We can't get enough of Jodin if I renew on the horizon the basic image of a diva-like person who has been spared any talents. It's too much to marvel at the new one, but dumb at the one who has lost his talents. In her thoughts, Rui felt a moment of sadness. That's right. The news is spreading among the glorious people about the appearance of a black devil, who, it seems, does not know the power between. The ice is captured by a smile that pierces its lips. Otherwise, the inescapable power will immediately carry out its stitches of zealous testing. They insist that this rank does not pass to him. In my opinion, the boys are too much adored by the class, so they are sure to refuse to see each other, not looming for anyone to get enough help. Zosaredzin's silence is shattered by a stack of coins. The dwarf pulls a hamanetz and begins to get excited. Rotaganus is openly aware that the things he will require will be rejected by him. However, such a shortage is not a reason for people to give up. No matter how hard life's experiences may befall one's lot, one must accept them from one's years and courage. The people present did not notice the burial, which means that he was not very lucky. In my opinion, the uncle, who told Rhea that ease of mind is capable of mastering everything, testifies to the existence of essential maturity. It is impossible to achieve a rank's plan with the most unbreakable determination. The long-awaited statement about walking up to the mark is the constant presence of understanding, like activities far away that really touches the depths of the soul. When the third is constantly aware of his lack of readiness, Rue loses his invincibility and does not lose the same respect for their respect. While the essence glares fiercely at the people, the girl, tacking her true emotions behind the impenetrable virus, stitches her mittens behind the development of her bottom. The elixir of vitality, a savory remedy for the eyes, an infusion of antioxidants, a refreshing drink, and a medicine for the voice have been consumed. Many of the young men were deaf, burdened with important joints. They can't smell the sweets. Yerba tirelessly repeats that the help won't change anything, and the chances of a sweet taste will fall on Oranka, who is already on his nose, and he has very little. One small fellow has fallen into the eye, who, in her opinion, has been reduced to the category of Sema. They wanted to help you find the right way. Widely for the people present, and even soon the place will sleep before the important exam testing. From time to time, a booming, important voice resounds. Everyone who sleeps may easily get back to being a sovereign. The crowds of people in an endless stream were destroying the ordinary life, seemingly the streets with hubbub and unrest. The voltage was so strong, the wind was electrified before the storm. At the discretion of the candidate, a new title was brought, a prestigious position, which is occupied by the curator himself, who is responsible for promotion. Besides, this person is an absolute member of the guild, knowledge in all corners of the irresistible shield. On the screen appeared the post of Grisa, the curator, who, thanks to Arang, earned the nickname Sales Fork. Arang appears on the stage again at once. At this point, Nick is looking for a solution for his labyrinth guide, Senna. A girl comes on stage to celebrate Sabretooth, a mysterious stranger with a piercing look. The skin detail on the baby dies to the well-known veterinary curates, depriving the heart of a good feeling. Instructed from the promoter, behind the podium they caught 4 of the brightest stars for inheritance, the very ones who are dying all the time. I am inspired to renew my heart. I would like to believe that among today's newcomers there will be those who can rise to the same level. The understanding has come. Soon it will be perceived as the same as the final Arang adventure. It is clear that most of them do not recognize the changes. The handler ruthlessly stuffs a gag into her mouth, cynically calling her toothy. I'll finish off everything that was said to me, but the unsatisfied boy, speaking again, will lose another important word, which I shouldn't say before. The real surprise for Ruo was that Zemnanto-sama herself appeared as the first prince of the Centracilian kingdom. Please don't waste your peace of mind, because there will be changes. This young man is the right favorite in the fight for the throne of the Centracilian kingdom. Residents of the kingdom of Rubri sing in song as a prince from a distant land lands in their lands. That doubtful gift. This young man is inextricably tied to such things. Truly a friend of my mother's young man, she was named king of the glorious kingdom of Kairian, which became famous for its affairs with the centaurs. In the past, there was a ruler of the Rubrud kingdom, and its ruler was a real guy. The old uncle's boys took away a unique chance to bring this unknown world to light. The memory has been leaking the first rumors about this mysterious kingdom for what feels like a long time. The manto sung firmly. In the end, the pressure on the good was not lost. The real problem is that those who are rated low initially have a reduced chance of earning their first job before the change. The discussion on this topic was only gaining momentum. It is especially necessary to go through the rigors of those whose share is formed in uneasy minds. For them it is of the utmost importance. In exchange for the fact that sales of reproductions will bring you a yearly profit, you can pay for their unguarded assistance at the expense of all other expenses. Incessantly hoarsely talking about the gold of the future, he is drawn to his guardian. However, it is important for Rue to catch his cunning pull, because Rue has as many as $80 million on his shoulders. The despair of failure has completely filled the thoughts of the main character. Giving up seems to be the only way out. Judging by this lad stumbled here suddenly through the cover of the local guildmaster, just as the other participant relied entirely on his presence. The prince and the king exchanged news about this wonderful situation. Having noticed the courage of the speedster, it is time to try out the scheme. If you are already daring to rush forward, then you need to speed up your ability. It's hard to guess what kind of people Rosmova's ruler knew from. Mantotal is a detachment of those who invariably prove their position on the New Hope. The sense of reversal of the past few years has been forgotten, but at the same time, Svidomosti's senses are fading away. The light of the future will flare up ahead. The call for success was echoed, and even soon his name may appear among the winners on the list. The list ended, but among the names the name Rio was not found. She sings, "There is no solution to the complete reduction of the necessary talents," and the benefit itself becomes a clear proof of her words. From the very beginning their life was marked with the brand of inviolability. Shares, as God himself allows to be told. Although there are not enough of these angry mandarins, we go to this place and find the unknown stars. Without any great talents, it seemed like a miracle that they earned the title of B rank. This success in everyday life does not give you the right to refuse the same. Despite the tired rules, their fate is sealed, and the onlookers are rooting for their successes. It appears that at the moment the guild fell asleep, every person without the required talents was not able to create A rank. History confirms this pattern. It was so calmly and so troubling until now, as reflected by the rating itself. Surely, the weakest, who, having failed their testing, seemed completely hopeless, are strongly encouraged to help those whose share is ready to rise above the overwhelming powerful force. Vreshti resht. It's time to bring the non-Abyak bark to this fellowship of adventurers. So it would be better for you to get married before things become impossible for these bodies. It is not surprising that the output will inevitably be lost behind. Rodianus clearly declares his unimportant approach, even though he has one goal in front of him, to capture Arank. On the shoulder of the Mandarin lies the difficult task of trying to shout out to the most clumsy. There is a tireless atmosphere of mutual encouragement in the hall. The spectators cheer each other without mentioning. It's impossible to comprehend why this subject is constantly dragging behind itself a tale of troubles and vibrating the atmosphere of constant turbocharges. Who is the most special person who cares about respect? Judging by his words, this group still knows what they have to say. If he is acting in the role of an uninvited examiner, he immediately declares, "Whoever dares to tell a critical lesson ahead of time," immediately after learning from testing. The report urges you to gather your thoughts and not lose your peace, stressing, the fall to the pit is just one of the 4 pastas that are chatting ahead. The cold-blooded and distant post at the break, accompanied by the promotional ones, although with a short cross-haired glance at Albion, brought the hero insane insight, in whose skin the hero reveals himself especially brightly. The author fully emphasizes their unique figures with the help of short, rather than heavily emplaced words. The Mitevo public burst into a flood of questions. What happened? What's going on here? A person without any unique talents screamed out of control. It's so useful. Rodriguez asserts, the gap in space is the legacy of its very potential, and it is the point of its birth. All of them are inspired by the development of the underside. The law of love is simple, activities without joy. For those who do not dare to go through the main testing, one more chance has been given. A spare one, just when it is necessary to get out of the gloomy dungeon. Success in this world is due to the fact that those who are blessed with significant TI. However, we are not inclined to give hope in a new life, unless we have met our obligations again. The sheer decisiveness of the action itself seems to be panicking at once. Ajay, wait a minute. Every one of them will have a healthy heart. The axis in front of you stands the pride of people in whose hands there is no waste. Our oysters, generous with elixirs, will continue to do the same thing. With their hard work, the rest will clear up all the troubles that fall on the road. Anger through unfulfilled hopes for strength swelled openly. Dissatisfaction no longer streamed. Unrespectful at this point, the people insisted. No ordinary words came from their lips except for the superhuman capacity. Everyone was filled with joy when it was over. This is already the same orang. The callers are the ultimate bullies, and behind a heavy mask there were people, prepared by pain and experiences, such as few people can see. Revia herself was so respected. Without special gifts or natural strength, people are unable to stand on their feet due to 24 fates of tireless work. Their incomparable resolve does not allow them to be kidnapped or succumb to doubts. Loyalty has long become their dominant force. Rolling up to the billion, scat, where are you going? An uplifting voice can be heard from the speaker, confirming that the words were just a feeling. Suddenly a chimera. An unconscious atmosphere flares up. The stench has settled in the place, where everything seems alien and unknown. It's time. The devil is already looking at them more patiently, ready to meet. The Rodiganist sings, the reason is not in anyone. Take control of the situation on yourself, and then ask them to encourage no one. Information has emerged that Rua demonstrates the same abnormality as you. Respecting those who are not showing themselves from the greatest side, it is audible to hear joy. Let's move on to a sleepy look and marvel at everything in the dark eyes. The axis over there is the same girl who conceived from her lifeless body. Smiling with a sneaky chuckle, the Kermanic process coldly ends people's lives. My God has shown that the selection of applicants here was trivial. The whole task was reduced to one thing: to steadily survive challenge after challenge of unexpected experiences. Without a shadow of a doubt, Ria's fortitude will help them overcome any obstacles. Do these mysterious spirits really come out? The Nizhny Murkots inform about the discovery of a miracle. Shiger, the master of the Panther's most powerful overhauls, respects how much turbo this girl brings. It's a burying that borders on obsession. It's impossible to get to the point of such sweet reality. At the end of the day, Shiger brilliantly demonstrates his coolness, and at times he gets a little embarrassed. And even today's jobs were deprived of vocal noise, rather than displaying other talents. Having activated the process of wet metamorphosis, the heroine is rapidly approaching the mark of 50% transformation into an animal. Suddenly, she cold-bloodedly declares to the main character's betrothed that her chances of telling on the original cat will be lost to the greatest extent possible. Reassured, the girl's actions come first, and her opponents are already planning to slay her. She calls them the greatest, because she finds the very idea of judging a person outside the prism of their personalities unpleasant. Aje Ryo-san has a lot of gifts that far outweighs others, but people don't notice him, passing him by. What right do they have to call themselves examiners? What are the secret intentions behind her behavior? It seems that the get is not informing the sense of the powerful words. Isn't it right for this marvelous camp to rob these people of our lives? Having realized this, I boldly go straight ahead. She is young at heart. She respects herself with great importance, and even dares to challenge the tired order and break the strict rules of the hierarchy. The mouth began to stutter, and in the middle there was the sound of an unconscious voice. A sharp white pierced his nose. A silent blade pierced his skin. Ria suspects that the reason for this is the gossip of several unforgettable moments that swelled at once from her moment. At the moment of entering the wild world, all senses become intense. The sight becomes incredibly penetrating, the ear catches the slightest rustling, and the nose catches the ice's distinct aromas. Otherwise, it seems that this action is manifested in a non-streaming reaction. The radiator, as before, is far from ideal. The smell of spicy aroma grows. The growing details are noticeable from the skin. I will again fly swiftly, unhappily approaching you. Suveri, the screams of the oppakuns will become muted, hardened, and fully understand the mystique of transferring to the beast, which, in my opinion, will help to learn to control the turbulent reaction to the pungent odors that one carries not safe. Having completely given in to the call of his instincts, if the boy tries to reach her, he loses his respect. Without hesitation for the last time, the girl relied on her powerful instincts and plunged headlong into an unsafe task. Her attempts to escape the world turned out to be a paste for her. The enemy's strengths appeared to significantly overturn these manifestations, and his capabilities were unsafe for assessment. For an hour, the mysterious dance that the wine floats in front of itself only adds to the tension. What's in this bottle? This whole thing is so painful that the orange starts to blur before my eyes, and I can no longer remember. Noami's versatility is inestimable for her uncharacterized cruelty. Without any decisiveness, this is the perfect finale for the Supernita. A club with rusty flowers falls into the hands of the heroine. The food is healthy. Her appearance is so strong, a mysterious clue emerges that through this improvisation, the arsenal in her hands becomes deadly careless. The food source gives a calm explanation. I just bought it there myself. Under the alchemic influx of the hour before the end of the day, the girl incredibly gains strength. Her vigor increases tenfold, and her mass increases perhaps 300 times, including accumulation and bloating water hour. After the twists and turns, the girls are in a state of complete panic. Everything looks simply terrible. Through the foggy blackness, the pose was lost to everyone, apparently without noticing anything. It is good to brutalize the prohanium. Do not kill it, because it does not become a victim, crushed like a dead grenade. Suddenly, a Binyan is lost from her captivity. Unselfish anger burns in their eyes when there is evidence of how everything is going wrong. The ability to return to the abyss is supported by all the advantages, and formally fits into the ranking hierarchy. Obviously, such a force cannot approach the power of the SSS Rift. The Croaks are approaching Noam, and the moon is shining. The first stage of testing has been completed successfully. I was glad to hear that even the girl, endowed with unforgettable talent and unique memories, passed all tests with honor. As a sign of recognition of their success, they promptly recognize the two, or sanctify their admission to the Guild of Orangu. Without hesitation, the woman immediately rubbed in, repeating the very words that the girl had so tenderly heard. I wanted to share my guesses with her about those different events that had fallen before the emergence of special powers. If this life was a constant world of gluttony, and then one day everything changed radically. Cher gave a gift, changing everything completely. That filled her soul with inestimable joy, which darkened the spell of the alchemical king. There's not a lot of misunderstanding beyond what's said in it. It's simply impossible to take your eyes off Gnome Grove. The saw-like gaze does not let go of the gaze, as if the ruler has happily buried all his possible troubles for the coming hour. If you have a moment of insecurity, you can't get rid of everything as much as possible. the enemies can't help but notice on their damp skin how pathetically the twisted light is, which has a stench. The decision to place all respect on the powerful evidence became an initial one for him. To the fullest potential of jokes, one gets a chance to learn again when there is a lack of special skills, and one decides to plod ahead without giving up in the face of difficulties. Uncle tells them to change the tempo. Without getting too hard, the best advantage is to stretch to the edge. And now it's time to break down the next part of history. First of all, he pours the rest on himself, sawing, so that no one will be hit from behind by the rapt. It's inconvenient for myself, having become overwhelmed by the trustworthiness of these people. Even at the start, there was always an invincible defense of these strong men, without recognizing any of the rags. The main character immediately turns to one of the leaders from direct lines. Why do you want to take command on yourself? Why are you acting so unnaturally? I hate devastation to the point of bitterness, but I have felt how its bitter influx penetrates into the deepest recesses of my being. Returns to Rui from nutrition, which informs the one how ruthless and cruel this world is for those who do not want daily needs. With the loss of their strength, people inevitably refuse their well-deserved payment. Friendly laughter erupts again, and at the same time a sarcastic phrase comes from it. Having said that, at Orang Adventure they only let in the worst fools. The desire to get to Orang Adventure does not fill their hearts, and this world leads them ahead. Having gained the respect of the comrade who greedily forges water, having guessed, in the dungeon, it is especially important to make sure there are clear gaps between the forges. Otherwise you will not run out of supplies at the critical moment. You don't understand anything. The decision about the division of your route has already been praised. United by a powerful weapon, these heroes have now become allies, willing to bravely rely one-on-one, and need to splash out all the pressure of their fire. Unfazed by the rapid progress, the main characters find the strength to stumble, sigh on their chests and slump forward. Everything that preserves the main character is worth preserving in the health of life. On the way, a mysterious passage appeared in front of them. Prode has lost her food. What is the right way to lead forward? Divina, even when the light starts to shine through. I'm sorry to say that things didn't go according to plan, but the man's hunched shoulders don't hesitate. He's going straight ahead. It turns out that obviously the magic of this place has been destroyed, so we will block the roads on one side before we emerge. The mist, which has had a lot of bad luck, turned out to be exactly the same as the one where the stench was gone first. A slight smile on his face did not deprive him of the yearned chance to waste this unforgettable moment. Tim, who doesn't care about the right to try his hand at a rank. However, for the sake of fairness, it is deprived of the opportunity to accept someone who is very likely to devote himself to service. The illness had already fallen, but the sleepers had not been able to overcome it, and were able to cry again to enter the battlefield. Enter. This means showing courage. We were the first to leave this place, and then send the money to the guild for the sake of the guild, calling for an unbiased test. It seems that such a move seems most reasonable to them. Appearing raptly, Abinion looked so eager to share with the extremely important. Having realized how much he pays attention to her testimony, he has already died away from the alarming sensation. The cob of another round is brought under tension. Some of the participants struggle on their feet, stretching to the edge. However, true courage is revealed immediately, because people did not stand up. In a situation where there is a lot of energy on the surface of the gold, it is necessary to take advantage of this as an opportunity to protect yourself and straighten out all the excess energy so that the first ones escape into the mountain. The detailed promo revealed to Ryu the depths of new knowledge, and he became thoroughly aware of all the subtleties. Analyzing the situation, it is likely to collapse too. They reinforce the fact that they recognize this country because of the number of serious ruins. It is absolutely important to protect the very heart of your dungeon. The core is securely hidden in the very depths of the labyrinth, and although no one knows the exact depths of its depths, it is entirely obvious. More than 20 levels descend down there. Lightly hitting the underside in a clearly defined rhythm, the main character quickly makes his way to the next level. Here, a tireless fuse and a blazing idea intertwine with stubborn principles, unless such a union leads to success. The spirit of super niceness infuses all those present, and from this moment they gather into one strong team. One of the people is overcome by a decision. He has quickly found a way to get out of this uncontrollable mess. Causing a new blow encased him deeper in the abyss. At the very heart of the endless glance, an unexpected object appears, similar to a crystal trick. Another mysterious clue to the path to the truth. The ice stepped closer to the core, reverently turning a dull sound, an alarming whisper, sensing impending death. The unexpected appearance aroused great joy in the boys. The stench came from the burials. "Hang on, everyone's here. We just got caught up in the street." The ruler of the dungeon loudly declares, "You are not given the opportunity to comprehend what has already happened." The main character was completely overwhelmed by the hope. He had lost a lot of strength on the way to victory, and tried to get the best of everything. The examiner's stupefaction is heard. The dungeon was wiped off the face of the earth, leaving the remains under the rule of the Ruin region. The dungeons serve as useful reservoirs of valuable resources for powers. A wealth of all sorts of essentials, rich in mysterious depths, begins here. The entire economic system of the place is frozen, turning into a real hardship and a large-scale catastrophe for the locals. With the appearance of the dungeon gun, hundreds of workers in the city simply disappeared, and the city's pranksters lost their jobs without any robots. The curator quickly turns to the young men. In what manner are they going to testify for the share of cross-border people whose lives have changed so dramatically? Whenever a proteinist becomes alert and prepares to give an important and serious report, are people ready to take on responsibility? One of the pranksters, not liking the cry in his voice, turns to the examiner, calling him Joker. At the end of the day, there is a stronghold, the very fault of the depleted dunes. Yogo's voice mooningly chanted. He himself had given the greatest blow to the core, even though the experimenter had set everything up like this, or he had a chance to do it himself like this. Over the course of a year, the entire group was thrown into prison, and even though the examiner's best wishes were able to achieve freedom, step by step, following his instructions, the promotional curator impressed everyone. Due to the presence of special talents, this team showed the intelligence and determination to overcome difficult challenges. The mischief of anger clouds the mind, and no thought appears about those whose words are responsible for the death of the foolish. My memory is leaking so many words we have recently been uttered. The time has come to pay the price of the road, which indicates the greatness of this momentous day. Ventureri, with smiles, tick their fingers at each other, loudly and sing-song in their voices. The vanity is victorious. Constantly playing the role of exam observer, this boy immediately demonstrates his Victorian dedication. Masterfully manipulating the space, he begins the passage from the dungeon, pushing, going to freedom to lie beside the ruined wall. If this experiment had turned out to be invalid, its reputation would have come under serious threat. The present moment seems like the best time for me to bring my maturity and willpower to the fore. The time to declare to myself and, in a powerful manner, explain the true meaning of responsibility. Ridicule fell upon Ventura, while the docks flew for the Primus and poured out the most absurd mines. They quickly picked up the rappers, and their tongues immediately began to ring at the door in the guise of authority. Whispers spread about whether I might be able to steal the honor of the RN class. The curator shrugs without any restraint, demonstrating his full confidence. At first, this idea seemed unpleasant to me, and the boy was not eager to become a mentor to the newcomers. That life put everything in its own way, and there were already people who blamed the situation on themselves. For the status of the head examiner, all the blame and responsibility, as he himself knows, fell on him. Having reported the whole story, we learned that all the problems arose through the reckless organization of this experiment on the side of the guild. It is with particular emphasis that the world does not respect anything as its own. The ventures froze in indifference, obscuring the further course of their actions. The examiner was pleased to know someone with greater knowledge, or to go to the next level with questions. It is important to issue certificates that are legally defective and will not damage or destroy the valid diamond. 2 more tests were shown, which would clearly increase the ease of the target. Having recognized the familiar revelations, they immediately realized the boys were beset by bad luck. Behind these words, these bitter experiments have shown themselves to be real fears. Of all those present, only one person calls out to them in confidence. Rua interrupted the discussion, guessing that the parties were already ready to please. Buried in sharing details about the brilliant development of the additional education, Rodiganus respected how important it is to listen to him. Unsurprisingly, the guests began to pour in, and the conversation moved on to the main testing. Incredible laughter evolves on its own. Isn't it true that the stench of justice has been reconciled, so that misunderstandings can throw a shout at them? Before speaking, do you feel the newness? Believe me, the organizer of the additional education has lost his presence among us. Looking at his comrades, Depravity squeezed his heart, and he began to wonder what was going on here. The Rotagonist reconciledly declares, "Under the hour I was able to secure the dungeon, and hoped that Santin himself would not escape the west and go under the rubble." Pozil conveys, "All responsibility is borne by the head administrator, who simply sits across from him." The dungeon, which seemed like an unfinished crossing, fell under the onslaught of Rueo. "I realized that I was going to die, having become healthy. Even yesterday I thought I was incapable. The curators at the place destroyed it badly, and it would scream in the eyes of the world that the dungeon was effectively wiped off the face of the earth." The Lord of the Range voices Ruya's Savra of Guard. "Since the dungeon is truly laid out, Ruya is facing such a miserable blow that his body will fly up to the wind without any clothes. But once again, since this is simply an initial twist, the praise of the brave is fully deserved." Turning around, the man said, "Everything had completely turned into ruins." He voices the proposition, "If there is no point, let the worthless one try to clarify the situation. Describe what happened. Don't believe in such an implausible story. How, they say, would an ordinary person, without any unique skills, be able to undertake such actions? It will take Tim an hour to organize Protogin's efforts." The good signifies the superhumorousness of the Spivrozmovnik. First, the chant of the unknown starts to sound, and then the threat of arrest begins to sound. However, those words are lost without reaction, even though it's easy to ignore someone's respect. Again, interrupting, this time with particular ease, she speaks, to understand the significance of the dungeon that belongs to the kingdom of Rubrum, and immediately stumbled on the edge of a new danger. Type of guild. It is useful to turn around a small amount of money, and then to conduct testing for a year. You want to know if you want to know one arena. All the responsibility should be placed on the shoulders of the guild itself. Because of the examiner's arrogance, this scene became heated. Man, without hesitation, my voice softly quiets. The hero was hurriedly scrambled for his neck. A ruthless statement came out of his mouth. With the situation being cleared up, there was no other choice but to blame all the blame on the new lad, once and again. Thus, the head of the exam will deprive the mother of the chance to pay off for the old offenses that have ruined the life of a troublesome person. Perhaps you will prove first that it is not entirely free. In memory, Rozmova merges with Bitom, which is important to forget. It is important that strong spirits, like those before her, have the potential to chew up the so-called core of the extinction. Their share led them to a castle that looked like a cat's eye diamond. Only 5 weeks passed before troubles flared up in the very heart of Maya. Varto, so that Rhea would fall asleep on the thought, and devils would immediately open the heart of the dungeon after its ruin. Such was their commitment to end the day, regardless of Rhea's fears. Revealing its special setting, the main character comes to an understanding of the reasons why immediately after the words, "Don't overeat, fill everything on the ground," an alarming tension arises among those present. Tidal is attacking examiners, interpreters, who themselves clearly saw the absurd minds of testing, and all those who do not have the required talents. Alain Navet somehow to spare the gold and the far-fetched membrane, of which all the same is lost for the sake of Pericon Livogo proof. In view of his own guilty pleasures, he is now free to solve the problem on his own, instead of aimlessly seeking respect. In his words, the lad sounds like a real idiot, but why? He insists that he pass it on to you. All the tasks must be placed on your shoulder, so you will have to rake out the air without any need of support. With a graceful swing, the blades of the misunderstood pranksters swiftly rushed forward, directly attacking the examiner. Launched the power of a steel exoskeleton. Weaving metal fibers create unfinished armor, for which we get the name Zalizny. Rue says, "Young men write with what? No one has the honor of dying under a woman's hand." The blow passed, our cry for justice, the trembling hearts trembling. The purpose of these devices is no longer a mystery to anyone. Raking up all the metal, the hero brings his goal. His fist is worth for steel, and only a special river is given to his resistance. Congratulations to our guests. Ruya has been training spontaneously, steadily exercising his physical skills to the fullest. The silence passed, as Pruding's attack immediately fell on the decisive enemy. "We've got a new projectile, and now it's going to explode back from the rapidity of fire, rushing forward with crazy speed, even as far back as the misters by the hands. The shock has taken hold of one, and the other partner is still locked in and doesn't want to recognize him." In his words, in order to pass the first part of the test, it was necessary to overcome any of them, and, surprisingly, it failed. In order to gain the right to pass Orang's training test, the main character faces a difficult mission: to officially overcome the most powerful of all supernicks. Half-heartedness burned in the eyes of the examiner. The incredible power of this warrior is reflected in reality. The power imbalance is so great that there is no chance for Rhea to get well, without regard for the marriage of the same special desire. Stressful nutrition is to blame. Who is this person who is the most powerful in the middle of all this playing of little brothers? The command to start sounded hesitantly, and in the girl's eyes an unwavering desire burned. She was so eager for victory that you instantly began to drown in her readiness to sacrifice everything for the sake of Axis, and the image of Stamari himself is a representative of the Rada Guild of Applicables. The official conduction of the A rank is in whose place it is to confirm that the panic here is not about troubles and fears. But, Luna asks, who is it? A little child stands before yesterday's hearing. The examiner is ahead of the curve. Be on guard, even if everyone is against her. You can see the glad lady who uncompromisingly holds in her hands the kermo of all the guilds who are fit for the world. Despite my doubts about her useful ability, she still bows to her. Now the defender Mario emphasizes, work is not at all difficult. I mean, its essence is nothing more than parasitism. To govern only formally, but in reality, to impoverish the lives of its victims. Given the modesty of the girl, Ryu has many disappointments, although in the depths of her soul she feels that this rice may turn out to be brown. Signs and anxiety on the face of last Soats with the remaining hulls? Is it possible that you have recently found yourself in serious trouble? The ruin of the dungeon did not at all correspond to my plans, but unfortunately, I didn't understand. I'm glad to no longer hide in the face of the threat that was rapidly approaching. They reached their climax, and the door of the statement burst open. This evil was formed by mediocrity from special motives. Without hesitation, he decided to shake off the wine before the King of Reds. Continuing his speech, the speaker expresses his regret for the fact that Deputy Bistamario had the opportunity to appear in court in a powerful person. It turns out that this person retires from the role of observer during the exam period. If the testimony is solid, then the responsibility for everything that has happened rests on one's own shoulder. Continuing the theme of a clumsy mind, such as can be overcome at the cost of depletion of the underground, the voice sings mooningly and inconspicuously. Now and then, Rhea, bound by the power of the curse, rapped a not-so-holy wonder. She seems to be clearly knocking her out of her usual position. With sarcasm in her voice, the girl means that such a twist is a classic manifestation of human fun. Bistamariel quickly explodes to Ruby, trying to recognize that on the right is the ruined dungeon. The ruby without a valance is known, and also pulls on the fact that there is enough gold for your shell. The girl was buried to Tiskativsha. In what manner I was able to do something like this? A hero with success demonstrates. Having reached the closest point, decisively delivering the blow without the slightest delay. One of the members for the sake of repeatedly hitting the blow, which went straight through the heart of the core. Ruya calmly says, "If you don't believe it, there's no need." The girl explains that she really didn't dare to fall in love with the truthfulness of what she felt, and she knows that her blow effectively reached the mark. Obovyazok watched the exam lying on the shoulders of the inspector. At the same time, the testing was carried out without delay by the government, although the initial idea was suggested by its representatives themselves. Buried without the right skills, new beginnings were transformed into a shock that left everyone in a deep state of silky shock. Mario didn't know anything about organizing additional education for those who were deprived of necessary talents,